Hidden Leaf Village X. Running through an alley, a 14-year-old Naruto was trying to avoid a mob, calling him a demon. Making several turns, Naruto was finally able to lose them by hiding in a dumpster. Opening the lid to see no one around, he wiped his face of the sweat and tears, while wiping away the trash now on his body. Hearing something from the other end of the alley, Naruto turned with a look of utter fear on his face. Yet when he saw who it was that made the sound, his face shone with a happiness never before seen. For standing at the end of the alley was his Jiji, the third Hokage of the Leaf, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Looking at the boy while raising his eyebrows, the Hokage had to ask, "Naruto-kun, if you don't mind me asking, why were you in the dumpster?" He asked. "Well, I was just kinda hiding from these people that chased me," Naruto said while looking at his feet sheepishly. Hearing this, Sarutobi started to get extremely angry. Deciding that he couldn't let this go on any longer, he went into action. "Well, Naruto-kun, I came here to ask you a very important question. How would you like to come with me to the Sand Village on a little trip?" The third Hokage asked. Hearing that he would be able to get away from all of the evil people that chase him, while spending time with his Jiji, Naruto's eyes lit up like they were under a fire jutsu, while he smiled from ear to ear. "Of course, I would love to go anywhere with you, Jiji. When are we leaving?" the young boy asked. "We leave tomorrow morning, Naruto-kun. Now come on, and let's get you packed," he said with a gentle smile. Yet while he was talking to Naruto, the third Hokage also ordered his hidden ANBU to be anything but gentle to the people they found that were chasing young Naruto. "I won't let Danzu and Hamaru try and take you for Danzu's route ANBU. Thankfully, I have a spy in their little group." The next day, sitting at the Hokage's desk was one Nara Shikaku, head of the Nara clan and temporary Hokage. Fire Country, Wind Country Border X. Sitting around the campfire at the border that separates the fire and wind countries, the third Hokage was sharing stories of his days on the battlefield with Naruto. Naruto, for his part, was hanging on to every detail that he could. When the exciting parts came, he would open his eyes wide or cheer. When the funny parts came, he would grin and laugh. This went well into the night until young Naruto fell asleep. The next morning, Naruto woke up to the smell of cooked meat. Peeking his head out of his tent, he could already see his Jiji cooking what looked to be rabbit. "Morning, Jiji, what are you cooking?" the young man asked. "Rabbit, Naruto, now come here and get a bite to eat. I need to be in the Sand Village by this afternoon," the old Hokage said to his young charge. Taking a bite into his piece of meat, Naruto's eyes went to the size of ramen bowls. For this tasted like nothing he ever had before. Not as good as ramen, mind you, since nothing was as good as the food of the gods, but better than what he thought it would be for camp food. After he finished eating, while he helped the Hokage pack their camp up, Naruto had to ask him a question. "Hokage Jiji, why are we going to the Sand Village anyway? Oh, and do they have any cool jutsu like we do?" Naruto asked, for he loved the different jutsu he saw while spying on the ENBU that would follow him. "Well, I need to go to the Sand Village to talk to their leader, the Kazekage, about our peace relations and their daimyo taking missions from them," the Hokage said. "And yes, the Sand Village has many cool jutsu. They specialize in wind jutsu, weapon crafting, and their legendary puppets." After explaining to him about the jutsu from the Sand Village, the Hokage picked up Naruto and started running into the desert towards the hidden Sand Village with his ANBU guard right beside him. Hidden Sand Village X. Running up to the gate to the hidden Sand Village, the Hokage and his ANBU started to slow down. Seeing the Sand ANBU come towards him, he stopped and greeted them. "Hello there, ENBU-sans, I believe that the Kazekage is expecting me," he said, seeing the ENBU with their guard up. Hearing that the leader of the ENBU sent a messenger to the Kazekage to tell him that his guest is here. "Hokage-sama, if I may ask, who is this little boy with you?" the ANBU captain asked, not enjoying the surprised guest little boy or not. "Well, if you must know, this little boy is Uzumaki Naruto, someone I see as a grandson, mind you," Sarutobi said with a little edge in his voice as a threat. Seeing the look in the Hokage's eyes, the Yanbiu's eyes widened in fear from old war stories of what the old Hokage could do to. Walking in on the Hokage's and Anbu's conversation, the Kazekage was laughing in his head at the luck of his Anbu. "Hokage-sama, if you could not scare my Yanbu to death, I would appreciate it," the Kazekage said jokingly. "But it's so fun, Kazekage-sama, though if you really like this Anbu, I want," Sarutobi said, joking with his old friend. Turning to face his Anbu, the Kazekage's eyes changed from joy into the battle-hardened ones that many ninja feared. Now I believe that we have business to do in my office, he said, leading the Hokage and young Naruto to his office, while motioning for his ANBU to take the others to their hotel. Walking into the Kazekage's office, Naruto and the Hokage could see three kids standing behind the desk talking. Walking over and sitting in the front of the desk with Naruto, besides him, the Hokage decided to start the meeting. Kazekage-sama, if I may ask, are these three children you kids? He asked. Smiling with pride, the Kazekage introduced his children. Yes, these are my children, Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara, he said, pointing out each of his kids. Well, it's nice to meet you three, the Hokage said with a genuine smile to the trio. Now then, why don't we send them out to play with Naruto-kun so we can get to business then? The Hokage said, ready to get this meeting on the way. Nodding, the Kazekage turned to his children. Kids, go play outside the building, but stay within sight, the caring father said. X leave council room X. Sitting in the council room were the Hokage's three advisors, Danzu, Koharu, and Hamaru, and all three of them had a sour look on their faces. That old fool ruined my plans again, taking that damn demon with him to the sand. He was supposed to go missing while the Hokage was gone, so we could make him into a weapon against our enemies, Danzu said with a glare in his eye. Turning around to cough, Koharu smirked at Danzu's and Hamaru's failed plan, for she was in actuality a spy on the council for Sarutobi. Well, if your plan doesn't work, then we will have to wait for another time, she said with a smirk, while glaring at Danzu for failing. Yes, we will. Maybe if we send him to the Hidden Stone Village, he won't bring the boy. Wouldn't want them to hurt the spitting image of the fourth, now would he? Hamaru said with a twisted smile and a gleam in his eyes. Looking at Hamaru with a smile, Danzu spoke. Yes, that is a very good plan. In fact, by that time I should have my surgeries done, being one step closer to immortality, Danzu said before he started a laugh that would make Orochimaru cringe. Maybe your plan won't fail like Danzu's did this time, Koharu stated. Yet the whole time she was thinking of a way to help young Naruto-kun and the third Hokage. I must find a way to tell Sarutobi. I can't fail young Naruto-kun again. X Sand Village X. It was now mid-afternoon in the Hidden Sand Village. Naruto and Gaara were playing in the streets after Temari and Kankuro left to go to their lessons. Temari was learning to be a wind mistress, and Kankuro was training in the sand's puppet arts. They both had to do extra work for their jobs before they even had to go to the academy. Gaara and Naruto were now running around playing ninja, gaining glares from the other people who hate Gaara for the demon he holds. Gaara, why are people glaring at us? Young Naruto asked, thinking he might have done something wrong. Noticing they are too far away from the tower for his father's liking, Gaara started them back without answering. Turning down into an alley, Gaara and Naruto both stopped. In front of them was a group of ninja with their swords and kunai drawn. Gaara knew that they were no threat to him or his new friend, for his sand would protect them, so he gave them a glare. Yet Naruto reacted like he would in this type of situation at home. He ran as fast and as far as he could, turning down numerous alleys, not even bothering to slow down to see if anyone was still following him. Naruto was in for the surprise of his life when suddenly he tripped and fell into a very deep hole. Finding himself in the bottom of a very deep hole, Naruto got up and walked to what seemed to be a door with a red scorpion on it. Wiping his tears away from being chased and hated here and in the leaf, he opened the door. Upon the door being open, a small amount of purple gas came out. Breathing in the gas, Naruto started to feel sick and tired, but after a few minutes of coughing, he was actually feeling a lot better. Looking around the dimly lit room, he saw many other doors in this room, along with shelves that held many things that Naruto couldn't tell what they were from all of the dust. He also saw what seemed to be a desk with more light coming from it, and two pieces of paper above it, with two journals and a scroll below them with the same names as the papers. The first paper seemed to be from a woman named Chiyo. To whoever finds this, I am known as Lady Chiyo, one of the legendary siblings and the Sand's foremost puppet master. I have mastered the puppet techniques. I have made poisons with no antidote for them. I have sealed a demon and lived. I have left my workshop as a gift to anyone who may find it. Use it to help with your own puppets, and eventually become stronger than me. The last paper was from a man named Sasori. To the lucky ass that just fell in, I am known as Sasori of the Red Sand, grandson of Chiyo, the new and ex-puppet master of the Sand. I am ageless, unmatched in power. I not only mastered the puppet and poison techniques, I have went beyond them to a realm that others fear, killer of a Kazekage and Kage-level opponents. I have left this workshop to show that no one will ever get close to my power and prowess. You may try like the arrogant shinobi, I know you are, but you will fail. So use this room to help make your own puppet stronger. I have left everything that I use, including the original books on my trade, and a time seal to let you train longer. For this, whoever you are, be thankful and train well, for one day we will meet, and that is something you should fear. Bringing his head up, Naruto had a huge smile on his face and a gleam in his eyes. Thank you, Chio, and fuck you, Sasori. I will be the best, and one day meet and beat you both. Picking up the scroll that read training schedule and started to read it, before getting up and looking around, now noticing that the objects around the room were in fact puppet part. Getting up, he started to walk to the first room and began the training regiment that the scroll laid out for him. X Desert Rose Hotel X. Around halfway through their talk, the Kazekage and Hokage turned to see Gaara run in with a worried look on his face. He then proceeded to tell the story about how him and Naruto were attacked. The Kazekage and Hokage then promptly summoned their Yanbu and sent them to find young Naruto. Yet now the Hokage was sitting in their room, his age clearly showing with his eyes sunk in and the crease on his brow, worried sick about Naruto. The Yanbu have yet to find him, yet they do know that no one has took him out of the village and the security has been tightened. The Hokage would stay in the sand as long as it took for them to find Naruto, and tomorrow he would start looking as well. Chapter 2. Rise of the Red Leaf. X Sasori's Base X. Picking the first door off of the main room, Naruto walked into the next room and noticed that it was a huge library, filled with books and scrolls of all sorts. Each bookcase had a gold metal plate on the top telling what the case held. There was one for the three major jutsu types: ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and taijutsu. There was also one for chakra control exercises, physical exercises, anatomy, and poisons. On the other side of the room were cases for carpentry, traps, seals, kenjutsu, and history. While on the far side against the biggest wall was a huge bookcase dedicated to scrolls and books on puppets. Deciding to finish exploring before coming back to look at all of the books, Naruto went into the next room, which housed Puppet Workshop, which had shelves and several huge workbenches in it. On the shelves were parts of all different sizes and shapes, gears, hinges, and several other parts including clothes and wigs. The benches held every tool one could think of to make puppets, as well as a few blueprints of basic puppets. The next few rooms held different training areas for jutsu, weapons, and puppets. There was also a bedroom the size of Naruto's apartment, with adjoining bath and walk-in closet with training clothes of all sizes already in it. The last room Naruto went to was what looked like a huge outdoor garden. It held trees and plants of all shapes and sizes. The room also had several benches with beakers on them to make poisons with, and bins by the door with seeds of all kinds in them. Finishing up his exploration of the base, Naruto walked into the bedroom to go to sleep for the night. Walking in, he saw a giant red scorpion on the wall above the bed. Falling onto his new bed, Naruto passed out thinking about how his new training will be, and hoping that Gaara was okay and got home safely. X Day 1X. The next day, Naruto started his first of 3 months of his beginner training. Training as described in the scroll left by Chio and added on by Sasori. It told him that the first month was going to start him with chakra control exercises, physical exercises, anatomy, poison, and history. The month started out with him going to the library and gathering all of the scrolls that Sasori and Chio said he would need for this month of training and placing them into the middle room. Standing in the middle of the training room meant to train jutsu and seals, Naruto was looking at a scroll that Sasori put down as one that he should learn before he began his training. In the scroll was a jutsu Sasori learned from a leaf ninja. He turned into a puppet. He put down on the scroll that this jutsu would help anyone wanting to learn and put in the time to do it right, be able to learn anything at inhuman speeds. The jutsu in the scroll was none other than the leaf's forbidden shadow clone jutsu, which required insane amounts of chakra and let the creator learn anything his or her clones did. After practicing for 4 hours after breakfast, Naruto was finally able to learn the jutsu, being able to make 100 clones with only half of his chakra, meaning he would be able to make 200 clones with his full supply at his current control level. The rest of his first day, he started on the history that he was to learn. It ranged from the history of the elemental nations and the ninja villages and their famous ninja to the history of ninja puppet users. Being that he already learned the shadow clone jutsu, Naruto made 100 of them, so 50 each could learn about the elemental nations and the other 50 for the ninja villages, while he went to start reading about the puppet users. He learned about the very first puppet user Monzaemon Chikamatsu and his legendary 10 white puppets, and how he was the first to make puppets into weapons. The next major puppet user was Chio, who also had the legendary 10 white puppets. She was also a poison expert and discovered many seals and jutsu to use with the puppets. The last of the great puppet users was Chio's grandson Sasori of the Red Sand. He was the creator of the basic puppets the Sand Village still use today. He also was the one who discovered and expanded on the human puppet jutsu. He also made some of his own body parts puppet parts, while being the first puppet user to ever abandon the Sand Village. Learning what the other famous puppet users have done in their lives, Naruto knew that he wanted to be like them and advance the puppet form like none before him. Throughout the rest of the month, Chio and Sasori had several exercises that he was to learn and be able to do a certain amount of in a certain time limit by the end of the month. He also started wearing weights on his arms and legs, with a note saying he would add seals to his body later on in his training. The weights started off as 10 pounds each, with him increasing them once he was comfortable with them. He started off doing push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, running laps, and jumping jacks with a few other exercises. The one difference in this part of his training was that he couldn't use his shadow clones for it. He was also told to start on chakra control exercises to help with his huge chakra reserves. It started off with him learning the Kanai floating exercise, which after he learned it, he then started to use his shadow clones to master it. The next exercise that the scroll had him learn was the tree or wall walking exercise, where he used the walls of the training room to learn, before sending shadow clones to finish mastering it. He also started to learn the basic exercises of the Sand Village, including the sand walking and sunblock exercise, which he also had his clones learning so he could master them faster. The anatomy he thought was one of the most coolest things he learned that month. Sasori had left behind several practice dummies. The dummies showed him the vital organs of a person and how to dissect a person and keep their chakra network intact. A few of the dummies even had targets on them to show the best place to attack to knock out or even kill his opponent. For the dissection, he also started to learn about chakra scalpel jutsu that would make it easier to keep a person's chakra network intact. Even though he was not yet able to master the jutsu, he did make a huge leap in his progress, yet he was still not able to make it even with the help of a real scalpel. Now, learning about poison was by far Naruto's favorite thing he learned that month. He learned about many of the plants in the greenhouse. From the basic plants used for poison and antidotes, to the trees he would need to get his wood to make his puppets from, called chakra trees. Planting about 10 of his own chakra trees throughout the month. He found out that he shouldn't just learn about poisons, but also the antidotes to them, just in case he got poisoned himself. Another thing that Sasori suggested was starting to poison himself to start building up an immunity to the various poisons, since he would use them on many events. At the end of the first month of Naruto's training, he was able to make 500 shadow clones on a full tank. He had read every history book on the elemental nations and ninja villages while gaining last year's edition of the Master Bingo book. He also finished every book that the library had on the history of puppets. The weights on his arms and legs were up to 50 pounds each, and he was able to do all of the exercises that was written for him to do. After his physical training, he now had a slimmer and more muscle. His body was more of a swimmer or runner's build than a bodybuilder's. His hair had also grown some more, now being to the bottom of his neck and just above his eyes. His chakra control was up to Chunin level for his reserve size. After he mastered the Kanai floating, wall walking, sun blocking, and sand walking exercises, his knowledge of human anatomy grew, letting him be able to dissect a human body without any problem. And he started on animals, as well, being able to now do the chakra scalpel with a normal scalpel as a medium. His poison-making skills allowed him to make the most basic of paralyzing and killing poisons and antidotes. His immunity for those poisons was also built up to an advanced level as well. After he went over what he had learned in his first month of training, Naruto laid down, wondering what the next month would bring and what his Gigi was up to. Sand Village X. Outside of the hidden base, the Sand Village ANBU, along with Sarutobi's own ANBU, have been looking for the lost child that came with the Hokage to visit the Sand Village. They have been looking the whole day and were told that they would keep looking until they found the boy and returned him to the Hokage and Kazekage. The Kazekage's younger child was also very sad about one of his friends missing and tried his best to find him as well. Day 2X. After finding that he would be learning about carpentry, traps, and basic puppetry, Naruto went into the library like the month before and gathered all of the books and scrolls he needed before putting them in the main room. Besides the basic exercises he had from the first month, he was also to be starting on chakra strings, perfecting the chakra scalpel, and working on his poisons. After he read the books on carpentry, Naruto went into the puppet workshop to practice on some normal pieces of wood. As the month went on, he started on the finer points of carpentry, making a few basic weapons and some basic puppet parts. After a while, he started cutting down his chakra trees and turning them into wood that he would use for his own puppets when the time came for him to learn that part of his new trade. While he had his clones cutting down the 10 full-size trees that he grew with his chakra, Naruto was working on making and becoming immune to a few more poisons like the chakra-sapping ones and the hallucinogens. From the books in the library, he was able to learn a lot in the art of trap making, from making traps to protect camps to putting traps on his puppets. Naruto started off by using the training room from his physical training for the normal traps and having his shadow clones come in and trigger them. He took to using some of the basic practice puppets for his puppet traps. Naruto would take one part at a time and tried out different traps on it, from releasing poisons and weapons to nets and ninja wire. Finally being able to start learning about puppets and using them, Naruto jumped right in and soaked everything up. It started with him making chakra strings from his fingers. Using his shadow clones, he was able to make one on each finger in under a week. After he was able to make the chakra strings, Naruto tried to move some of the parts around the puppet room. He started off moving an arm across the room, making it fly around, zipping around the benches and chairs in the room. Around midway through the month, he was finally able to move a whole puppet and made it act like a human down from its head down to its toes. The end of the second month came very quick, and sitting down on his bed, a slightly taller Naruto thought about his latest month of training. His chakra scalpels were coming along fine, with him almost being able to make them on the fly now. With his carpentry skills, he was able to make any puppet part he needed, while coming up with his own unique symbol like Sasori's scorpion, his being a red whirlpool with a leaf in the middle of it. His poison skills came along nicely as well, with him being able to make and being immune to low-level chakra sapping and hallucinogens. After mastering the traps that the books and scrolls showed him, Naruto started to come up with a few new traps of his own, like electric shocks and flamethrowers. After learning the basics of the puppet jutsu, Naruto started making the basic 3 puppets that Sasori designed and every beginner puppet master used. They were the black ant, crow, and salamander models. While he was able to make the basic puppets, he still had a way to go on the seals and being able to use all 3 at the same time like they were meant to be used. Laying down in his bed, Naruto hoped someone would be able to find him soon after his 3rd month of training, so he could go home with his Gigi. X Day 3X. The last month of training was finally there, and this promised to be the most exciting part for Naruto yet. For this month, he would learn storage seals, basic weapons that puppets use, seals puppets use, and the jutsu his first 3 puppets use. Another goal that Naruto set for himself was for him to design and create his own puppet. He also knew that one way or another he would have to get out of there by the end of the 3rd month as well, for if he didn't, the food and water would have ran out, and he would not have anything left to eat. The books and scrolls that the library had on storage seals, and seals in general, were many. Through his 3rd month, Naruto started to learn all he could on them, from the most basic of storage seals to the more advanced ones that created passages to other areas. He found out that storage seals could hold as much as you needed, and that Sasori and Chio left him plenty of empty scrolls to practice and make his own storage scrolls. One of the most interesting things Naruto thought was that he could make storage tattoos to hold his puppets right on his body, so only he could take them out. The whole month, he had his clones working on all of the different seals that he wanted to learn, having them work on painting the seals exactly and learning to make his own special storage seals. He was also learning about the different seals that his 3 soon-to-be 4 puppets needed. Already working on the storage seals, Naruto started working on seals that would shock someone when they touched the puppet, ones that could fire off Senbon and Kunai, and others that would release poison gas. He also started to work on a seal that would return any puppet to him just in case they got separated. Besides the seals that would help him in battle, they also suggested that he learn some seals that would make it so his puppets wouldn't break apart unless he wanted them to, and ones that would protect them from fire and other harsh elements. Walking into the weapon training room, Naruto moved over to the storage room to find it full of weapons he had only heard of. Now, there was not any special weapons like the legendary shark skin or lightning fangs, but there was quite a few practice weapons and also some good enough to even use in battle. Walking into the back of the storage room, he picked up a box each of Senbon, Kunai, and Shuriken. After Naruto practiced with each of them by himself and with a practice puppet, he walked back into the storage room to try to find a nice main weapon for his new puppet he was making. Walking to the back of the room, he saw two weapons hanging on the wall. One was a naginata with a blade on one end and an axe on another. The other was a pair of curvy scimitars. Taking them out, Naruto practiced with those for the rest of his training, figuring if he was going to have his puppets use them, then he should know how to use them as well. In his free time, Naruto started to design his own puppet. Deciding that he wanted a more humanoid puppet, Naruto started with making a male puppet body about 6 feet tall, with a black wig with dark red streaks that went down to its shoulders. Next, he had picked out an outfit for it to wear. He gave it a black battle kimono with orange lining and white flames along the bottom and cuffs. He also gave it normal black shinobi sandals and a naginata to strap diagonally across its back with a pair of scimitars also across its lower back. On its legs were pouches for its sunban, kunai, and shuriken, where all of his weapons were pure black. At the end of the 3 months, Naruto thought that he went above and beyond what the schedule wanted him to do. He had mastered storage seals and tattoos, and started on the seals that could change one room into another. Naruto had also mastered the seals he would put on his puppets, like the resistance seals, shocking seals, weapon seals, poison seals, weapon reloading seals, and the retrieval seals. He now had almost perfect aim with his sunban, kunai, and shuriken by himself and with his puppet. His naginata and scimitar skills were now beginner genin level. One of the things that Naruto started learning on his own time was weapon forging, so he could make his puppets any weapon that he could think of. He also learned several new puppet jutsu to use with his crow, black ant, and salamander puppets that now only took 2 hands to use all 3, including poison mist hell jutsu, puppet theater black secret jutsu, dual mechanism one-shot, and black secret jutsu crisis of 2 debut. Knowing that he had to leave, soon Naruto started to get ready to leave. Kazakage's Tower X. Laying down in the Kazakage's office, Gaara of the Sand was asleep for the first time in his life. The third Hokage had just finished fixing Gaara's seal, so the sand demon Shikaku could no longer take him over if he fell asleep, while actually giving him more control over his sand. They had all just returned after another day of searching for Naruto, yet finding nothing in their search. Gaara was starting to get angry at any villager that tried to come near him, and was starting to even kill people for looking at him wrong. So the Kazakage, his father, asked Hiruzen to fix Gaara's seal, knowing that he too was a master sealer and could help his son. Sitting in his office, the Kazakage and Hokage had their conversation interrupted when they both felt a massive chakra surge from somewhere in the village. The chakra surge also brought Temari and Kankuro into the office, while waking up Gaara as well. Feeling the chakra, Saratobi's eyes lit up, for he knew whose chakra it was, and asked for the Kazakage to tell his ANBU that it was okay and that they would handle it, before leaving the office with the Kazakage and his children. Sasori's Base X. Having finished his training, Naruto started to seal up everything in the base, from scrolls and weapons to puppet parts and furniture. He also had all of the wood from the chakra trees he grew sealed, as well as the poisons and antidotes he made with the seeds that were in the greenhouse. Sealing his beginner 3 puppets in a large scroll he made just for them, Naruto got ready to seal all of the other storage scrolls into another giant scroll, letting out a giant burst of chakra that everyone in the whole village could feel. Sealing his newest puppet, which he called Shadow, from his new storage tattoo that was of a person's shadow, Naruto started to walk to where he first came into the hidden base. Sand Village X. Walking out of the hidden base and alley, Naruto came upon the sight of his Jiji, the Kazakage, and his children. Seeing Naruto in tattered clothes, the third Hokage was able to see that not only has his hair grew, but he also had a leaner build to him. Asking Naruto where he had been these past few days, his answer was that he fell into a room that kept him sealed in 3 months for training, not talking about what kind of training it had been. Afterwards, Gaara went up and hugged Naruto, apologizing for not finding him earlier, yet Naruto said it was okay and apologized for running away from his new friend. When they were all done talking, Naruto and the Hokage left for their hotel room, so Naruto could get a shower and a new set of clothes before going to bed for the night. Waking up the next morning, Naruto was bombarded with questions about his training from Saratobi. Having no choice and trusting his Jiji, Naruto told him the full story from day 1 of his trip and showing him his new puppets. Telling Naruto to not tell anyone about this, they both left their hotel and met the Kazakage and his children at the gates to leave. Saying their goodbyes, Naruto and the third Hokage started off into the desert back on their way to the leaf. Chapter 3. New Naruto, Same Leaf. X Hidden Leaf Village X. Walking up to the north gates of the Leaf Village, the third Hokage and Naruto were stopped by the gate guards. Hokage-sama, Naruto, it's good to see you two back. How was your trip to the Sand Village? One of the gate guards asked while looking up from his clipboard. Seeing Naruto discreetly move his hand away from Shadow's ceiling tattoo, Sarutobi answered the Chunin with a smile. It was very nice and informative. Now we are going to go rest before starting my Hokage duties, he said, letting the dread of paperwork show on his face. Before letting the Hokage and Naruto leave, one of the guards handed a scroll to the Hokage. Inside of the scroll was a note from one of his spies in Danzo's route, Anbu, telling him he needed to meet with him when he got back. Naruto-kun, I need to go, paperwork waits for no one. But I want you to meet me in my office tomorrow morning, okay? The third Hokage said with a look of worry and a slight hand gesture to the Anbu to follow Naruto back home. Smiling at his Gigi, Naruto decided to help the old man. Gigi, I'll tell you how to defeat your paper enemy if you let me join the Ninja Academy, Naruto said, hoping to join and make some new friends. Well, Naruto-kun, if you can, then tomorrow I will personally sign you up for the academy, Sarutobi said while thinking that he was going to do that tomorrow anyway. Jumping up and down while dancing around his Gigi, Naruto started to speak. It's very simple, just use shadow clones. You learn everything they know, Naruto said with a smirk, before watching the Hokage fall on his face. Getting up while dusting himself off, the third Hokage tried to not look too pathetic that he needed help from a kid. Well, Naruto-kun, I guess you win the bet. Tomorrow we'll sign you up for the academy, he said before getting a hug from Naruto and walking off to the tower to meet his spy. Turning around, Naruto started to walk off to his home, with Anbu tailing him every step of the way to make sure no one tries to hurt him like the last time he was in the Leaf Village. The only difference between now and when he was followed as a younger child was he knew that they were there. Ex-Hokage's office X. Walking into his office, the third Hokage saw a young black-haired boy wearing Root Anbu gear sitting in a seat across from his desk. Walking over and sitting in his chair, he saw that his spy look up from a book he was drawing in. So, I see Koharu sent someone else instead of herself this time. May I ask who you are, my young boy? Sarutobi asked while using a small hand sign to signal his Anbu to lock down the room. After watching the soundproof seals activate, the young boy answered, My name is Sai Hokage-sama. I am also one of Danzo's most trusted Root operatives. But more importantly, I'm Koharu-san's spy en route. The now-named Sai said to the old Hokage, with the same impassive face all Root members had. Smiling at the young boy, the Hokage wanted to know more about his new spy. So Sai, could you tell me exactly why you turned on Danzo and became a spy for Koharu? The old man asked with a twinkle in his eye. Danzo killed my brother to make me a better tool. When Koharu-san told me and showed me the proof, then I knew one day I would return the favor to Danzo, Sai said with an even blanker face than normal. Well then, Sai, what do you have to tell me about Danzo and his little group? Sarutobi said with a frown on his face and his age showing because of it. He couldn't believe that a boy this young would want to take another man's life. Looking up at the Hokage's face, Sai could see the age in it and the toll he was taking. Well, sir, he has several plans. The first being sending you away to the Hidden Rock Village, knowing you wouldn't want to take someone who looks like the fourth there. He would either kill or abduct him then. Stopping to let the full effect of his words land on the old Hokage, Sai continued. If that doesn't work, he will offer Naruto a position en route after he has joined the academy. Feeling even older than he was, Sarutobi lit up his pipe and took a long puff of it. And if Naruto says no to him, what will Danzo do then? He said, half not wanting to know the answer, while the other half wanted to kill Danzo now. He would have everyone but his top 8 leaders and their groups attack him, with himself there to watch. If he was to fail, then the Big 8 would attack Naruto and any of his friends to finish their mission, Sai said, detailing Danzo's entire plan, even his backup plan if he failed. Well, Sai, can you tell me who these Big 8 are? Sarutobi asked, his soon-to-be favorite spy, before taking his hat off to wipe his now sweating brow. Waiting till the Hokage was done, Sai answered. All I know about the Big 8 are that they are all either kidnapped or brainwashed members of the Leaf's main clans. Yamanaka, Akimichi, Nara, Aburame, Inazuka, Hyuga, and there seems to be an Uchiha, and someone that can use the Senju clan's jutsu. Anger started to swell up inside of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Not only did Danzo want Naruto, but he already took a member of all of the other clans of the Leaf. Feeling the will of fire burning bright inside of him, Sarutobi straightened in his chair and put on his professor face. "Thank you, Sai. You have gave me a lot to think about, but now I must start my own plans," he said to the young boy. "It is my duty, Hokage-sama. I'll send word when I know more of Danzo's plans." By the way, he also had a plan to attack some purple-haired woman, to study some seals she has, Sai said before getting up and leaving the room. Seeing his ANBU come back into the room, the third Hokage deactivated the sound seals. He now had 2 of his special people to protect. X-Leaf Village Ninja Academy X. Walking up to the Ninja Academy, all of the parents were giving Naruto weird looks, but they weren't at Naruto at all, yet the person besides Naruto. Now, if one were to look closely, they would see that 3 of Naruto's right fingers were twitching every few seconds. For the one besides Naruto wasn't a person, but Shadow the puppet. After walking inside of the academy, Naruto made sure no one was by him before sealing Shadow into his tattoo and walking into the class to sit down in the back of the room. Not one other student came in when a red-headed male teacher came in and saw Naruto sitting in the room. Not knowing that the Hokage had sent Naruto there, the teacher, being one of the many fearful ninja, decided to have some fun before class. "Get out of my class, you damn demon," the teacher yelled before Naruto jumped out of the window next to him. Landing outside the back of the academy, Naruto cursed his luck when not only the teacher that attacked him jumped out of the window, but several other teachers and parents started on him as well. Now, like many of his attackers, this group was smart enough not to use jutsu, as not to draw a crowd or hurt others. Yet unlike the other times, Naruto had some training to fall back on. To start out with, Naruto started by flaring his chakra, so the ANBU he knew were close by would come to his aid. He then looked at his attackers. In all, there were about 10 of them, 8 teachers and 2 parents. Seeing one of them take out what seemed to be a rather large shuriken, Naruto knew that this man would be the one to cause him the most trouble. So he did what he did best now: create some chakra strings and attach them to said shuriken before flicking his fingers to throw it over the school. Charging at the young man, the other 9 men failed to see the tripwire right below them. That was until they all ran into it and tripped, with several people flying into each other and knocking each other out. Tensing up at everyone charging at him suddenly falling over, Naruto looked to his right to find a young teacher with a scar over his nose. Seeing said teacher relax his hand from setting up the wire to trip up the teachers without hurting them, Naruto relaxed. After a few more seconds, ANBU along with the Hokage appeared on the roof of the academy to find all 9 of the attackers tied up, while the one that had the shuriken had disappeared. Walking over to Naruto, the Hokage motioned for the ANBU to take the attackers away with a quick hand motion. Seeing the teacher that helped young Naruto, the third asked him to join as well. "Irika, thank you for helping young Naruto. Would you mind joining us for a quick chat in the headmaster's office?" he asked before leading them both into the academy. Sitting in the chair behind the headmaster's desk, Sarutobi looked into Naruto's eyes. There he saw the hurt and betrayal from being attacked by teachers of all people. "So Naruto, it seems that the academy may have not been the best idea for you. I'm so sorry that you were attacked," the third said, letting his age show for his favorite blonde. "It's okay, Hokage Gigi, I guess that I should have seen this coming. But what am I going to do now? If I stay in the academy, this will more than likely happen again," Naruto said with worry on his face. Seeing that Irika was getting antsy in his chair, the Hokage shot him a knowing wink before telling them his solution to this problem. "Well, Naruto, first I would like you to meet the man that helped you. Yumino Irika, a teacher here at the academy. Now, for what's going to happen, that depends on Irika here. For you see, the headmaster of the academy is going to step down soon, and he needs a replacement," the third said, looking at Irika. "Hokage-sama, are you offering me the job of headmaster?" Irika asked with a glint in his eyes. Seeing Irika take the bait, the Hokage decided to snap the trap. "Well, I was thinking about it, but you would have to show me that you were dedicated by taking Naruto here and becoming his tutor. Now, if and only if you do and make him the rookie of the year by the time the academy has their exams, you will be the next headmaster. How does that sound to both of you?" the third asked. "I would be honored to teach young Naruto here how to be a proud shinobi of the Leaf and to brighten his will of fire," Irika said, shooting a smirk to the Hokage. Naruto, for his part, was completely stunned. Not only did he now have his own private tutor, but it was someone that didn't hate him. "Well, I would love to have Irika-sensei teach me. But first I'm going to need help cleaning up my apartment. Several rooms are unusable that I kinda need for projects," Naruto said before getting up and leaving to start on his home. "Before you even ask, Trust me, it's better if Naruto told you himself. In fact, you can go and help him finish his apartment, so tomorrow you can start on training. The third said, seeing Iruka's questioning look. After their talk, Sarutobi left with Iruka going to find and help Naruto. Naruto's House X. The next day, Naruto and Iruka sat in Naruto's new study. Yesterday, they finished cleaning his apartment, adding in a study, puppet room, greenhouse on the roof, and the study they were in right now. Now, Naruto, for your first lesson, we are going to look at general team functionality and member roles. Normally, we would have started with history, but seeing that you already know most of it, we're going to skip it, and it's just really boring. Iruka said with a smile, before leaning back in his chair, putting his hands behind his head. Sitting in the chair across from him, Naruto couldn't help but laugh. In fact, he laughed so hard, he almost fell out of his chair. Who would have guessed it? A teacher who didn't like to bore people to death with history. He stated. Tapping his fingers on his leg, Iruka gave Naruto a nervous look. Ah yes, well, anyway, on to the lesson then. As you know, every person in a team has their own role to play. Now, commonly, there are generally 6 main roles in a team. Iruka said before looking up to make sure he had Naruto's attention. Seeing that he did, Iruka kept going with his lesson. The first role is that of your frontline fighter. They are the person that goes out and meets the enemy head-on. They generally use taijutsu or short-ranged weapons like katanas or staffs. Iruka said while making wide gestures with his hands. Iruka-sensei, do you know how to use any weapons? Naruto asked his teacher. Seeing Naruto interested in this topic, Iruka took out a small scroll and unrolled it. Well, Naruto, it just happens that I am very well versed in most sword-type weapons ranging from katanas to scimitars. Iruka said while watching Naruto get up and go grab 2 swords. You mean you know how to use these? Naruto asked, handing his scimitars over to Iruka. Well, yes, I do. Iruka said before getting up and doing a few kata with the swords Naruto handed him. Now back to the lesson at hand, Naruto. Iruka said, handing back the swords to Naruto. The next role in a team is the defender. Now they generally wear heavier armored clothing and use more defensive jutsu like walls. The next role is that of an infiltration specialist, one who can find traps, sneak into enemy bases unnoticed, and trap the enemy. After that, we have the long-range fighter, or sniper as some people call them. They deal with long-range weapons and jutsu and distractions. Iruka said while taking out some of the sniper's weapons, in the form of kunais and the bow and arrow. Now the last 2 are the scout and information gather. The scout is the person that goes ahead of the group to find enemy bases and confirm targets, while the information gather is mostly a kunoichi, who can seduce the enemy to get the information needed or pose as secretaries for the information. Taking in the lesson that Iruka taught him, Naruto was having massive ideas about his next few puppets that he would build. So these are the basics of team roles, right? I mean, a team will more than likely have more specialized members on it, depending on the team, right? Naruto asked while taking out a notepad and sketching some new puppet ideas. Of course, each team can be specialized, Naruto. Now, before we go on to your next lesson, I want you to take these teams here on this paper and sort the members into their roles on the team. Iruka said before going on to lessons about what history Naruto didn't know and etiquette until it was time for him to leave. After finishing his homework for the day, Naruto went into his puppet workshop to work on Shadow. He decided he needed to add a few more weapons and some traps. The first thing he did was put Senbon shooters in his fingers with seals that held Senbon with different poisons in each one. His mouth now had a net launcher in it to capture enemy ninja. The last of the new additions to his shadow were holes in each of his hands that would shoot out smoke pellets. Naruto also added some new seals he learned that would be put on all of his puppets from now on and some of his clothes. Finishing work on his puppet, Naruto went into his training room and started working with Shadow. He could now use Shadow with one hand, but his ultimate goal was to only have to use one finger like a true master. Dango Shop X. Sitting down at the back of a nearby dango shop, Naruto was enjoying his dinner when a lady with purple hair sat down with him and banged her fist on the table. Hey short shit, what are you doing sitting at my table? Do you know who I am and what I do to little boys that piss me off? Said lady asked Naruto while stealing a stick of dango. Seeing her eat the dango and use the stick like a Senbon, Naruto stared straight in her eyes. Well, I'm actually just about to ask a very crazy yet very good-looking lady to share some dango with me. As to who you are and what you do to boys that piss you off, I don't know, but I would love to find out. Naruto said, trying his best to not piss the lady off further with his flirting. Twirling the stick in between her fingers, the purple-haired lady smirked at Naruto. You know what, kid, you've got some balls. The name's Mitarashi Anko. Now, if you're going to be sharing this dango with me, it's only fair that I know yours. Anko told him. Well, the name's Uzumaki Naruto. You know, the guy that everyone loves to hate. Naruto said while picking up a stick of dango and taking one off. Ah, the infamous Naruto. So I heard you went with the Hokage to the Sand Village. Did you flirt with any cute girls? Anko asked with a wink. Choking on the piece of dango he just ate, Naruto suddenly got very nervous. Well, none of the girls I flirted with were half as sexy as you, the young puppeteer said while moving his fingers around in a puppet motion set, something he now did out of his nervousness. Ah, you sure know how to compliment a girl, don't you, shorty? Well, it's been a blast, but I have a patrol to be getting to, Anko said, getting up out of her chair. Oh, and you're not the only one this village loves to hate, Anko said with a wink before turning around to walk out, leaving a puzzled Naruto thinking about what she said. X Naruto's House X. It had now been half a month of Naruto's and Iruka's lessons. They have covered all of the basic shinobi theory and history, and now they moved on to practical study with the 3 basic jutsu and stealth. After the first week, Naruto also took Iruka to show him his own art of puppets, so he could show him that he was trusted. Now, Naruto, today we are going to start out with your 3 basic jutsu, the transformation, replacement, and clone, before we go into basic stealth exercises, Iruka told his young ward. Nodding his head, Naruto started watching Iruka's hands while he showed him the hand signs for the transformation jutsu. After seeing the hand signs 3 times at a slow pace from Iruka, Naruto did the same. When he finally got the signs down, it was time for him to try the jutsu. With a tiny puff of smoke, Shadow now stood in Naruto's place. Or actually, it was Naruto transformed into Shadow. Good job, Naruto. It's normally very hard for one to use the transformation jutsu with very little smoke the first time, Iruka said, patting Naruto on the shoulder, but when he expected to pass through Shadow, he didn't, and hit a solid shoulder. Naruto, did you do exactly what I showed you to do? Iruka asked, confused. Hi, Iruka-sensei. I did everything the same. Is something wrong? Naruto asked with a very confused look on his face. After all, he thought he did very well. Taking out a scroll, Iruka quickly jotted down a small note before looking up at Naruto again. Oh no, Naruto. Nothing's wrong, you might have just done something better, in fact, Iruka said, helping the young boy. Satisfied with Iruka's answer, Naruto asked him to continue and watched as he slowly went through the hand signs for the replacement jutsu. Practicing the signs a few times by himself, Naruto tried to switch himself for Shadow, who was sitting across the room. When he did manage the jutsu, though, instead of ending up in the chair Shadow was in, he ended up laying on the floor by it. Laughing at Naruto's current situation, Iruka waited for him to get back up and to his own seat before continuing. Going through the hand seals for the clone jutsu, Iruka saw that Naruto didn't even try to practice the seals, but went straight to the jutsu. Hearing Naruto do the jutsu, Iruka couldn't see for 2 minutes until all of the smoke cleared. That was when Iruka fell to the floor at the sight of hundreds of Narutos standing in the room. Damn it, it's the Shadow clone jutsu all over again. Let me guess, my damn chakra is too wild, and I need more control again, Naruto said, sighing, while putting his head down into his hands after dispelling his clones. Well, it's okay, Naruto, the normal clone jutsu takes less chakra, and hence more control than the Shadow clone jutsu. You don't have to be so sad about it, Iruka said, trying to comfort his student. After working on the jutsu for a short while longer, Iruka started explaining the basics of stealth and what they would be doing to help with it. While Iruka was talking, Naruto connected some chakra strings to Shadow and had him move around the room, doing meaningless tasks to help improve his control over the puppet. He was now down to 3 fingers on Shadow. Walking Iruka out, Naruto went back to his puppet workshop. He had taken Iruka's talk on teamwork to heart and decided to build a team of puppets, 1 for each team spot. Having Shadow be his infiltration specialist and spy, he was now working on his kunoichi puppet, which he started after meeting a certain purple-haired kunoichi. Laying on his bench was a 5 feet 10 human female with long blonde hair that had purple streaks in it that reached down to her butt and a DD bust. This puppet was designed to distract males and be a silent killer. She wore a brown leather halter top, short leather skirt of the same color, and brown high-heel knee-high leather boots. She had long purple fingernails that had poison on them, as well as her teeth and lips. In her wrist were paralyzing throwing knife shooters, along with poisoned sayus in a hidden leg compartment. She also had something new Naruto developed called synthetic skin that no one would be able to tell the difference to unless they were trained and up close. X Tetsu Weapons X. Having just come from the dango shop after having dinner with Anko again, something that was becoming a once to twice a week visit for the duo, having even told her about his puppets, Naruto headed to a very well-known weapon shop. Walking into the shop under a hinge so the owner would not kick him out, Naruto was surprised when he was grabbed from behind and dragged behind the counter. "Okay, kid, drop the hinge. We're alone, and I could have seen it from a mile away." An old man with pepper hair and a scar down from his left eye said, turning around while moving his hand up to his puppet tattoo, which he changed to look like a small team of people. Naruto was prepared to unseal Shadow and Kunoichi. "Look, old man, all I want is to buy some supplies. I don't want no trouble, but I want be an easy target." Naruto said the last part, beginning to gather chakra in his hand and cutting it with his nail, ready to unseal his puppets. "Whoa there, kid. I don't know what you were about to unseal, but don't worry, I won't stop you from shopping here, just not under a hinge," the mid-aged man said while grabbing Naruto's hand. "You don't have to be afraid in here, boy. I don't hate you. In fact, I see you as a hero for what I want say, but I do. By the way, the name's Tetsu Ken." Ken said, "Daddy, are you okay? We heard some yelling from upstairs." A young girl with brown buns asked while being followed by another young girl with pink hair. Looking at his daughter and her friend, Ken moved over to them and put a hand on each of their shoulders. "Everything's fine, Tintin. This is Naruto, a very special new customer." "Naruto, this is my daughter Tintin and her friend Sakura," Ken said, motioning to the two young girls. "Nice to meet you, Tintin, Sakura. Now, Ken-sama, can I go back to shopping?" Naruto asked, ready to make some new puppets. "Sure, Naruto, but if you don't mind me asking, what were you about to unseal back there?" "Oh, and don't worry, the shop is locked down, so only we'll know," Ken asked Naruto. Naruto was a little worried about showing these people his puppets, but he had a feeling that he could trust this man and the girls. So moving his arm up, Naruto unsealed both Shadow and Kunoichi. "These are my puppets, Shadow and Kunoichi. I just wanted to buy some weapons, clothes, and other stuff for them, myself, and some new puppets I'm going to make," Naruto said while moving them around the room. "So you're a puppeteer. I haven't seen that art in some time. Well, Tintin here is training to be a weapon master, so she can help you there. I'm sure Sakura can help you with the clothes, and I will be glad to make anything special you need for a nice price, that is," Ken said, letting Tintin and Sakura drag Naruto shopping while he looked over the puppets. Coming back to the counter, Naruto now had several piles of clothes for himself and his puppets. He also had several boxes of kunai, shuriken, and senbon. Besides the disposable weapons, he also had several different melee and long-range weapons, both practice and actual combat ones. Naruto also brought up several trap kits, ninja wire, smoke bombs, flash bombs, and scrolls, including two giant ones, one brown and red while the other was black and orange. "Ken-sama, I do actually have something you could help me with," Naruto said, sliding a scroll over the counter to him. Looking at the scroll, Ken's eyes widened. "Wow, Naruto, now this is something, but it will take me about a month. I'll let Tintin know when it's done to tell you, okay?" Saying his thanks, Naruto paid for his purchase and turned to Tintin and Sakura. "Thanks, girls, for the help. I'll see you tomorrow after Academy lets out," Naruto told them before making Shadow clones to take his purchases and resealing Shadow and Kunoichi to leave. "Minato, Kushina, your kid is going to be something with his ideas and talent," Ken thought watching the kid leave. Naruto's house X. 2 months have passed, and Naruto has took his lessons from Iruka even further, learning taijutsu and weapon styles, including Sei's for his Kunoichi puppet from a teacher. In his spare time, Naruto still had dinner with Anko and hung out with Tintin and Sakura almost every other day in the park, sometimes getting them to teach him some of their Kunoichi lessons to use with his puppets. Speaking of his puppets, he now had Shadow down to 1 finger with Kunoichi only taking up 3. Today, Naruto and Iruka would advance Naruto's skills in ranged weapons like short bow, long bow, and crossbow. They have already spent about half of the month getting Naruto to learn the basics of these weapons, and today would be the final test of his use of them. Naruto and Iruka were now standing outside of his apartment with 6 targets lined up. 3 were stationary, while the other 3 were moving. Moving over to the stationary ones, Naruto started with the short bow, first getting ready for his 5 shots, before moving on to the long, then crossbow. After hitting 5 for 5 on each weapon, Naruto moved to the moving targets to repeat. Having finished the moving targets with a perfect score as well, Naruto bid Iruka farewell before going into his house to finish up his newest puppet. This new puppet was the third of his puppet team. The name Sujekihai, he was a 5'11" human male. with a long-sleeve shirt, shinobi pants, and boots, all with new seals on them that would make them match whatever environment it was in. On his back was a dark brown long bow and leather quiver filled with arrows and a refilling seal in it like the sunbon, shuriken, and kunai launchers his other puppets had. On his hips, he had two mini crossbows that would use crossbow bolts that are stored in his arms with seals that applied different poisons on them. Every arrow and bolt had wind seals on them that would make them sharper and fly faster than normal. And so Jekihai himself had earth seals that would AC rank mud swamp jutsu to trap his enemies. Also on him were his new seals that he put into his clothes, being recording and sight seals that were on in his eyes and Naruto's glasses. Hearing seals on an earring Naruto bought, and a seal that would project Naruto's voice into the puppet from a collar Naruto had. X black and white den X. The next morning Naruto had woke up and left to go get some breakfast, yet not being a morning person, he wandered into the black and white den of shogi and go parlor. Even more, it seems that day was the day of the big shogi tournament, and Naruto happened to be using that game to study strategy with Irika and made it to the finals. And who else happens to be in the finals? Well, a certain pineapple-headed boy named Shikamaru. Now skipping past the shogi game. Troublesome we tied, Shikamaru said in his bored tone, while moving the pieces back. Yeah, we really have to do this again. Next time I'll win. By the way, my name is Naruto. Naruto said, extending his hand to Shikamaru. Shaking Naruto's hand, Shikamaru spoke. Troublesome as this was the name's Shikamaru, the young shadow user said before walking home. Chapter 4. Training with the Friends. X Naruto's House X. 1 year has passed, and Naruto is now 16. Him and Irika have been training every day, and he is now at Jinin level. He now knew the 3 basic jutsu, the Leaf Village Taijutsu style, and the Sand Village Taijutsu style that he got from one of the scrolls he took. He also had the Naginata, Scimitar, Sai, Long Bow, Cross Bow, and Short Bow all at Chunin level. His chakra control was now up to Jonin level, with him being able to control all of his puppets with 1 finger each. Today Irika had given Naruto the day off to work on his puppets and study, saying that there would be a big test coming up tomorrow. Naruto now had 6 shadow clones working on maintaining his puppets. He already had all of them outfitted with sight seals, hearing seals, and recording seals for said sight and hearing. Naruto now had the clones putting on a new seal he found in one of Chiyo's scrolls, a self-destruction seal that would destroy any puppet that would be stolen. Now while the clones worked on his puppets, Naruto was reading another scroll left by Chiyo. This one was about her teacher and his family. The Monzaemon family had 5 children, 2 daughters and 3 sons, one of course being Chikamatsu himself. It was said that the 5 children had a falling out when the 5 major hidden villages started, with each one wanting to back up a different village. As we all know, Chikamatsu went to the Sand Village, while the 2 girls went to the Mist Village and the Cloud Village, and the other 2 boys went to the Leaf Village and the Rock Village. Naruto was now thinking why he hadn't heard of the other Monzaemon children, and why the puppet arts were not more widespread. For Naruto knew that most families like to use the same ninja arts, especially bigger clans like the Monzaemon. He found this out himself while visiting his friends. Tintin and her dad were both weapon experts. Sakura and her mom could easily remember anything they had heard or read. Shikamaru and his clan were not only smart, but had their shadow skills. And he heard that Anko's family all specialized in animal-related taijutsu. While Naruto was reading this scroll, his clones had finished up on his puppets, dispelling themselves. Having got the memories of his clones, Naruto shot a chakra string from each of his fingers on one hand and one from his pinky on the hand holding the scroll, connecting to Crow, Black Ant, Salamander, Shadow, Kunoichi, and so Jekihai. Naruto started to practice his puppet movements with the slightest of finger movements. He also did this to work on his multitasking that Irika told him would be a must on the battlefield if he were to use more than one puppet and keep himself and his team safe. Having finished the scroll, Naruto resealed Crow, Black Ant, and Salamander into their new brown and red scroll, and sealing Shadow, Kunoichi, and so Jekihai into their own group tattoo before heading to bed to rest for his training tomorrow. Ex-Hokage's Tour X. Activating the silencing seals in his office, the 3rd Hokage was having a meeting with one of his top spies, Sai. Sai, my young boy, what have you brought me today? The old man asked the stoic boy. Well, Hokage-sama Danzo plans to act on toe of his top plans very soon. He is going to contact Uzumaki very soon with an offer to join Root and receive training, And he is going to do the same with Mitarashi-san, Sai said, while taking out his notebook to start drawing. Taking a puff of his pipe, the Hokage turned to look out of his window. Sai, what if they decline his offer? What does Danzo plan to do to them? The Hokage asked his young spy. Moving his brush along the paper, Sai looked up from his pad. If not, he would send all of Root, but his top squads after Mitarashi-san to show that he is not to be messed with. He himself would be there to oversee the attack. If he was to succeed in taking Mitarashi-san, he would try to copy her curse seal to use on his other Root operatives. So after he plans on attacking them if they don't come over to his side. Well then, that gives us some time. Sai, has Danzo suspected you at all on being a spy for me? The Hokage asked, looking worried for the young man. No, he doesn't suspect a thing, Hokage-sama. Every time he makes a moron there right beside him. He still thinks that I'm his most loyal tool in taking over the village. He even has me spying on the young Uzumaki and Uchiha boy. Sai said, finishing his picture and closing his book. Smiling at the young boy, Sarutobi put down his pipe before speaking. Ah yes, Naruto and Sasuke. So how do those two look to you, Sai? The Hokage asked. Well, the Uchiha is doing better than I thought for having his whole family killed. Even though he is still obsessed with killing his brother, I think he may be brought around. Sai said, taking a breath. Seeing the Hokage smile and nod his head for him to continue, he did. As for Uzumaki, well, he is a mystery. His ideas for puppets and ingenuity is amazing, as well as his ability to turn people into his friends as seen with Mitarashi-san. Yet I still think that he wears a mask most of the time. Not as much of a mask as we have seen, but one nonetheless. Sai said, finishing his report. Well then, Sai, thank you for the reports. Keep an eye on those two for me. I have big plans for both of them. You are now free to go report back to Danzo. I'm sure he is waiting for you. Sarutobi said before he turned the seals off, so Sai could leave. Getting up, Sai put his pad of paper back into his hip pouch before turning to look at the Hokage and bowing. Have a good night, Hokage-sama. I will see you again at our next meeting. If Danzo plans his attack, before then, I will send one of my animals to contact you to prepare. Sai said before leaving to meet with Danzo. I hope that those kids and Anko will be ready for this. Something tells me that Danzo is only going to be the start of a very long and hard journey for all of them. The third Hokage thought before going back and creating shadow clones to take care of his worst enemy, paperwork. X-Leaf Village Park X. Waking up early, Naruto decided to take a jog around the village for a warm-up before he had to take the test that Irika was going to give him. About halfway through his jog, Naruto came up upon one of the village's mini parks. Yet unlike other parks, this one only had 2 young girls in it. Even though Naruto could sense at least 2 other people watching them, he decided to make himself known and try to gain some new friends. Walking up to the girls, Naruto coughed to make himself known, while drawing the people's attention away from his hand that had unsealed shadow and kunoichi just in case. Hello, my name is Naruto. Naruto said before taking each of the girls' hands and kissing them. The older of the 2 girls then blushed a shade of red that Naruto never seen before in his life. Hello, my name is Hinata, and this is my sister Hanabi, the older one said. Seeing both of their eyes for the first time, Naruto now knew why they had bodyguards. These 2 girls were from the famous Hyuga clan. Well, it's very nice to meet 2 beautiful ladies like you 2 out on a fine day like this. Would you mind if I joined you here for a small break from my workout? Naruto asked. Seeing her sister was not able to answer, Hanabi shook her head and motioned for the young boy to sit down. So Naruto-kun, what brings you out so early this morning? Hanabi asked in a sweet tone, while pushing her sister to sit down on the other side of Naruto. Well, I woke up early today and saw how beautiful it was outside and decided to take a small run in town before the many people are up. And what brings you and your lovely sister out, Hanabi-chan? Naruto asked, adding the chan part to see if she can blush like her sister can. And just like Naruto planned, Hanabi turned the same shade of red that Hinata had turned earlier. While Naruto-kun, me and my sister felt like enjoying the park and smelling the flowers before it became too busy and crowed. Hinata answered while letting out a small giggle at seeing her sister like that. So you like flowers, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked before getting up and walking to the other side of the park and behind a rather large tree that he knew no one would see him behind even with the Hyugas Byakugan active. Unsealing his new orange and black storage scroll, Naruto unrolled it before finding the seal for a very rare flower and unsealing 2 for his new friends. Walking back over to the girls with his hands behind his back, Naruto handed them the flowers. The flowers themselves were a mix of lavender and white in the middle. They were called Kunoichi's kiss because they were used in some of the most potent poisons and antidotes. Seeing this incredibly rare flower, both of the girls had a full body blush on them faster than a person could blink. Wow, Naruto-kun, these are so beautiful and so rare. Where did you find them? Hanabi asked before putting the flower into her long hair, while her sister did the same. Well, Hanabi-chan, when I went to the sand village with the Hokage, I found these in an abandoned house. They looked so good that I just couldn't leave them alone, so I took them and have been caring for them ever since. And I know with you taking care of them, they will grow to look even better, almost as good as both of you do. Naruto said with a fox-like smile on him, while moving his fingers in small motions to move his puppets closer to him and the girls. Having finished putting the flower in her hair, Hanabi started to tap her fingers together in a nervous manner. Seeing her sister get nervous, Hinata turned to speak to Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-kun, for your gift. If there is anything that we could do in return, we would be glad to do it, she said with a slight bow of her head. And we do mean anything, Naruto-kun, she added with a wink. Hearing that got the reaction out of Naruto that both girls wanted. He, like themselves, just turned a shade of red that no person has ever turned before. But before he could come back with anything, 5 people dropped down and bowed to the girls. Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama, it is time we head back to the compound. I'm sure that Hayashisa-sama is getting rather worried for when you will return. Who looked like the head of the guard said with a bow. Naruto-sama, it is a pleasure to meet you, but we must go, he said again before taking the girls and leaving. You mean I was just flirting with the 2 daughters of the head of the Hyuga clan? Oh shit, I'm fucked big time now. Naruto thought, even though the head of the Hyuga didn't hate him, only the council did. He didn't know that yet. X Naruto's house X. Returning home, Naruto found Iruka sitting in his favorite chair, sipping on some tea, waiting for him. Well, Naruto, it seems that you had an interesting morning, Iruka said with a grin, before he twirled his teacup around his finger to avoid a kunai being thrown at it, without spilling a drop, I might add. So sensei spying on me, no? Is you life so boring that you have to spy on mine? Naruto quipped back at his sensei. No, I just like to make sure my student isn't causing trouble for the village, Iruka said, getting up and messing with Naruto's hair. Anyway, it is time for you to take a test. Let's head to the backyard, Iruka said, walking in front of Naruto to lead him to where his test was. Walking outside, Naruto was wonder what his test was going to be on today before he was suddenly attacked by Iruka, who had a smile on his face and 2 kunai in his hands. Seeing it was a battle test, Naruto quickly created a clone to distract Iruka while unsealing his sais that he kept sealed in his boots, while handing his bows off to another clone so it could hide in a tree and help. Having dispatched Naruto's shadow clone, Iruka went for the real one. Slashing his kunai at Naruto's body, Iruka was surprised to have them blocked by the sais that Naruto used. Now Iruka knew that Naruto had sais sealed on him, but that wasn't what surprised him. No, it was the fact that Naruto was using them instead of his now favored weapons, the pair of scimitar that he can make for him. Seeing that Iruka was surprised with his choice of weapons, Naruto signaled for the clone to start shooting arrows at him. So from out of the sky, several arrows started to dance past Iruka, but being a master of the blade like he is, Iruka just swatted them aside with the modified sword he wore on his back. Now, what made this sword special was that it was the size of a normal katana, but wider and thicker like a bastard sword with 2 straight and sharp edges. The handle also had a lion head that looked like it was swallowing the sword, and an elemental seal that he could channel his chakra through. Looking at Iruka's sword, Ragnarok, Naruto knew that it was time to step it up, so he pulled out his 2 scimitars. Assassin, a pure black blade that had a seal on it that would trap anyone who had it plunged into their shadow, and Apocalypse, a dark red blade that had an elemental seal on it like Ragnarok. After a few minutes of sword fighting, finding both in a tied battle between the 2 masters of their own blades, Iruka jumped back and made several rock clones to make this a bigger battle. Seeing Iruka move on and use clones, Naruto first threw up the scroll with Crow, Black Ant, and Salamander in it, and unsealed them before unsealing Shadow, Kunoichi, and Sojeki. Having Blank Ant and Crow work on the clones with Salamander there to help defend them and get them out if something happens, Naruto sent his other puppets to deal with the real Iruka. Knowing that the clones were rock clones for a reason and would hurt his puppets with just 1 hit, Naruto used Salamander to push all of the clones back by shooting fire out of a seal in its mouth. When the clones were far enough back, Naruto pulled Black Ant up out of where he was hiding it and let it capture all of the clones in its chest, for Crow and Black Ant to skewer with their limbs in the black secret jutsu Dual Mechanism One-Shot. Back with Iruka and his other puppets, Naruto had to use each to their fullest without jutsu since he was waiting to finish his team before he made jutsu for any of them. So he put Sojeki high up in a tree to fire arrows using wind chakra to keep Iruka off balance and make him dodge, while focusing on Kunoichi, who was using her throwing knife shooter to try and scratch Iruka to paralyze him, while Iruka was dancing around and using Ragnarok to stop anything from hitting him. Shadow this whole time was coming up from behind him and shot out 2 smoke bombs from his hands before shooting Sinban from his pinkies, which were for paralyzing Sinban into his legs to stop him. Having Iruka stop Naruto moved Shadow behind, while putting one of his scimitars on his neck to signal it was over. Giving Iruka the antidote, Naruto bid him a good night, while getting a glare in return for laughing at him before giving him the antidote, before going into his puppet room to work on his newest puppet, the one that he had to order parts for from the Tetsu weapon shop. This new puppet would be his frontline fighter. He was a 5'10" male with brown shaggy hair that fell to his eyes. He had a white sleeveless shirt with a black leather jacket over top and white fur around his neck with black gloves on. He also had black leather pants and boots, with a brow belt that looped around twice and silver belt buckle with a lion's head on it, and fur around his mid-back. He also had a necklace with a lion's head like his belt buckle on. On his face was a scar that ran over his nose from the left to the right. On his right hand was a seal for fire and wind jutsu, while on his left was one for lightning and water jutsu, and on his feet were seals for earth jutsu. Now his weapon was a cross between a blade and a gun, or a gunblade as some call it. Its name was Lionheart. It was a blue blade with a chimera on the handle that would shoot elemental bullets he made. The puppet's name Squall. X Leaf Village Forest X. It had now been 4 months since Naruto made Squall. Naruto was now in a forest close to his house practicing to use his puppets. He was about halfway through his training when he felt the perimeter seals he set up go off, sealing up his puppets so no one would find out about them. Naruto got ready to meet whoever wanted to see him. Walking into the clearing were 2 people, one a young boy with black hair and a variation of the YNBU uniform on. The other an older man with black hair and bandages covering half of his face and one of his arms. This man came forward using a cane to help support him, before stopping right in front of Naruto. Young Naruto, I see you are still training, even though you aren't in the academy anymore. That's good," the older man said with a smile on. Darting his eyes through the forest, Naruto knew that there were more than these 2 people in the forest with him. "Yeah, I am. But if you don't mind me asking, who are you?" Naruto asked slowly. "My name is Danzo, and I have a proposition for you, young Naruto," Danzo said, taking a step forward before looking Naruto in the eyes. "And what would you have to offer me? By the looks of it, you need someone to take care of you, so you can't take care of me," Naruto asked the old man. Calming down, it was all that Danzo could do not to sick his root ANBU on the young blonde. "Well, young Naruto, you see I train a special sector of ANBU, and could put you on the fast track to being Hokage like I know you want to be." Looking at the old man, Naruto wondered what his game was, but didn't want to lose the chance to go further in his goal to be Hokage. "Well, Danzo-san, it is a very nice offer, but I would like to have the chance to think this over if you don't mind," Naruto told the old man. "Well, Naruto-san, that is a very wise choice. I'll give you until the class you were going to be in graduates," Danzo said while motioning for the young boy to follow him, and the route ANBU that were hidden to leave the area. X Tetsu Weapons X. Over the next few months, Naruto and the girls all started to meet at the Tetsu weapon shop to keep prying eyes away from them. After a few of their meetings, even Shikamaru joined in. Naruto would still get kunoichi lessons from the girls, while working on his weapons with Tintin, chakra control, and Jinjutsu with Sakura, Anko for capture and interrogation, Shikamaru for strategy and stealth, Hinata for medicine, and Hanabi for minor taijutsu. "So girls, how have you been? Anything cool at the academy or any nice missions? Oh, and how about you, Shikamaru?" Naruto asked, getting a troublesome out of Shikamaru. "Well, Naruto, the academy has been boring ever since we all started working together, so far the only 2 people in our class that can keep up with us are Lee and Uchiha Sasuke," Tintin said while blocking a blow from one of Naruto's scimitars that a clone was using. Working on her chakra control with a clone of Naruto, Sakura took a breath to focus her chakra out to keep a floating leaf in between her and him. "Yeah, it's been okay, but they all think that us girls are so breakable in the kunoichi classes," Sakura said, pouting. "Sakura, we all know that you girls are tougher than most guys out there," Naruto said while sparring with Hanabi. Dodging each of her strikes, Naruto was trying to work out a new taijutsu style to use with his puppets. Another clone of Naruto's was with Shikamaru on their fourth game of Go of the day, for they have already given up on shogi being tied every time. While another clone of his was with Anko working on different poisons and antidotes to use with his weapons and puppets. So Naruto, how are your puppets? Have you finished with that troublesome project you mentioned earlier? Shikamaru asked, looking up from the Go board. Yeah, Naruto-kun, how are your puppets? You've only showed a shadow so far, didn't you say you were making a squad of them? Hinata asked while watching one of the clones making a simple, soothing bomb. Stopping his spar with Hanabi, Naruto walked over to the other side of the room to where Ken was standing. Well, I have 2 more puppets to build, but since Ken-san gave me the last parts, one should be done in 4 more months, 1 each to build the puppets and 1 each to train with them. Naruto said, but since you asked, I'll show you the ones I have already made. Naruto told the girls. Seeing all of the girls smile and Shikamaru raise his head from the Go match, unsealed his other puppets. Well, you've already seen Shadow here, but over here we have Sojeki Hai, my long-range sniper puppet. Naruto said, making Sojeki Hai pull out his long bow to show everyone. This over here is my newest puppet, Squall. He is my front-line attack puppet with elemental seals and a gunblade. Naruto said, making Squall take a step forward and show off his gunblade with a few swings before resting it on his shoulder. Wow, Naruto, that is one awesome weapon. You think I might be able to try it someday? Tintin asked, gawking at the blade. Smiling, Naruto had Squall hand his blade to Tintin. Sure thing, Tintin, but be careful. Anyway, here is my last puppet, Kunoichi. Naruto said, letting the girl of the group walk over. Naruto-kun, is it me, or does that puppet remind you of someone? Anko asked with a smirk on her face. At that, Naruto sealed everything up and dismissed his shadow clones before running for his life because of the look Anko gave him, making everyone in the room laugh. But Shikamaru, who saw that the clone tied him in Go again. X Training Ground 16X. Running for his life, Naruto came upon one of the strangest sights that he would ever see. There, standing in front of him, was a tall kid with black hair in a bowl cut kicking a tree. Hello there. If you don't mind me asking, what are you doing? Naruto asked while wiping the sweat off of his forehead. Turning around from his tree, the boy looked at Naruto with fire in his eyes. Well, I'm training so I can become a taijutsu master and a truly great ninja. By the way, my name is Lee. Lee said, offering his hand. Well, my name is Naruto. And Lee, of course, you can be a great ninja with only taijutsu. After all, if you can get to the other person and knock him out faster, then he can fire a jutsu off, you would win. Naruto said, shaking Lee's hand. Yes, you are right. After all, I will become the best taijutsu master in the world with you as my rival. Lee said, screaming in the air. Backing up from Lee, Naruto tried to stop the young man from screaming. Lee, stop. Okay, now since you are becoming a taijutsu master, how about you help me with my own taijutsu style? Naruto asked his new friend. Smiling at his new friend, Lee started to pump his hand in the air before Naruto stopped him. Yes, my rival, I would be glad to help you make your own style. Perhaps we should set up a training schedule. After making their schedule, Naruto and Lee parted ways, with Naruto going home to sleep after a very long day. X Naruto's House X. By the end of the month, with Naruto keeping up his training schedule, he was finally able to finish his newest puppet. This one was the biggest of them all, standing at 7 feet tall. But instead of human like his other puppets, this one was a giant suit of dark bluish-black armor. The head was in the style of an Oni mask with one horn sticking up in the middle of its forehead. It had pointed shoulder blades, and his wrist guards were also blades used as weapons. On his chest was a giant leaf symbol in green. In his mouth was a tube with a wind seal that would send a burst of wind that could knock any weapon out of the air. On his shin guards and boots were earth seals that would bring up an earth wall to protect anyone that was not close to him. On his right arm was a seal that would make a chakra shield pop out and activate. The shield itself looked like an old knight's shield, while across his back was a huge bastard sword Naruto liked to call Excalibur, only to be used in emergencies. X Uchiha Pond X. Walking back home the next month from training with his new puppet Kitetsu, Naruto came upon the sight of the youngest Uchiha practicing his fireball jutsu. Naruto, being the person he is, walked over the young Avenger and tried to talk. You know that you're missing one very important part of this jutsu, Naruto said, already knowing the jutsu as Irika taught him it last month. Turning around and scowling at Naruto, Sasuke was about to do the jutsu again. What do you know, Uchiha are the best of the best at fire jutsu, Sasuke said before turning. Well, if you focus your chakra in your throat and then do the jutsu, Naruto said after Sasuke turned around, deciding that listening to the blonde wouldn't hurt anything, so he gave it a try. Fire-style fireball jutsu, Sasuke yelled, making the fireball grow to twice the size it was before reaching 12 feet in front of him. See, you listened to me, didn't you? Naruto half asked, half stated. And how did you know that, loser? Sasuke asked with a sarcastic smirk. Taking out a mini scroll, Naruto wrote something on it before handing it to Sasuke. Me and my friends meet here every Wednesday to train. The name's Naruto, by the way. Naruto said, holding out his hand. Maybe I'll join, and I'm Sasuke. Sasuke said, shaking Naruto's hand, before turning to leave to go home. Naruto's house X. It was now 2 months after Naruto made Kitetsu, and was now finishing up his last puppet for his team. This one would be his scouting puppet. It was in the shape of a medium-sized panther. It had all of the normal seals that Naruto would put on his puppets: the fire and waterproof seals, the anti-braking seals, the shock seal, the recall seal, the self-destruction seal, and the sight and hearing seals. It also had the camouflage seal on his whole body for scouting, and a poison seal in each nostril, one for smoke and the other for knockout gas. Its tail was a whip that could detach and tie up people it captured, and its teeth had a chakra-distorting poison, while its claws had a paralyzing poison. After finishing it, Naruto sealed into his redesigned tattoo. This one was for his whole team and showed each of their shadows. X Fire Country Forest X. The next month one would find Naruto outside of the Leaf Village, for Naruto decided that if he truly wanted to become a puppet master, he needed to have experience fighting with his puppets. He had heard of 6 bandit camps around the village that were rather well hidden. Naruto had already used his crow, black ant, and salamander puppets to take out the first one, sealing up the bodies to try the human puppet technique that Sasori mentioned. Now some might ask, why would Naruto want to make human puppets? Well, the answer was simple: revenge. Naruto wanted revenge on anyone that would attack him or his precious people. You see, even after making friends with several clan heirs, people still attacked Naruto. But that was the normal for him. No, what really changed his mind was one attack that happened last week when he left the Tetsu weapon shop from their weekly meeting. He was attacked by several villagers that said they were going to hurt his friends next. He would have killed them if Kin wasn't nearby and stopped him. At the next camp, Naruto let Shadow out to take care of them. He started off killing the guards from behind with his scimitars. After the camp started to get alert of the attack, Shadow shot off Senbon from his fingers and mouth before shooting out several smoke bombs to cover his attacks. Taking out his Naginata, he went through the smoke, taking the bandits out one by one, before coming up to the last one and taking his head off in one clean swipe. Kunoichi was the next to be tested out. Now, unlike Shadow's stealth, Kunoichi walked right into the camp up to the leader, swaying her hips each step. Bending over, Kunoichi kissed the man before biting his lips and waking over to the others by him, scratching them with her fingers only enough for the poison to go in. After about 2 minutes, the leader fell down and started to bleed out of his mouth before dying. Seeing their leader die, the others attacked. Taking the sais from her boots, she started attacking. Between attacks, Kunoichi would fire off, throwing knives into the bandits that were farther away and hitting them in the head for a quick kill. Finishing up the last bandit, Naruto sealed the bodies and left. The 4th camp was reserved for Kitetsu. Having him walk into the middle of the camp, the bandits started freaking out from the demon-like look. Unlike other camps, a few of the men here had bows and arrows, but they did even make it to Kitetsu, for he opened his mouth and shot air out to stop the arrows in their tracks. Starting off with the ones near him, Kitetsu was using his wrist guards to chop into the bandits, leaving gashes in them. Seeing the others were coming after him with their weapons, Naruto activated the chakra shield before drawing Excalibur. Blocking strikes with his shield and slashing with his sword, most of the men weren't even left in one piece when he was done. After finishing the last one, the leader came rushing forward before Kitetsu slammed a foot on the ground, making an earth wall come up and the leader smash into it, letting Naruto throw a kunai into the leader's head, killing him. The next camp, Naruto took out Sojekihai and set him in a tree. Taking out his longbow, Naruto made Sojekihai channel wind into the arrows, lining up the first shot he fired. The first arrow went through a whole line of bandits, killing 5. In the confusion, Sojekihai killed 6 more bandits before he was found. Jumping out of the tree, he put the longbow back behind him and pulled out his 2 mini crossbows. Using the automatic loading seals on his arms, Sojekihai started firing off bolts, killing the rest of the bandits. Pride was the next puppet on the list. Using the panther to stalk into the camp, Naruto noticed this was a smaller camp with only 5 bandits, perfect for Pride. Making the panther jump at the back of the first bandit, Pride bit into his neck before jumping off and slashing 2 others. Wiping around its tail, Pride walked up to the bandit and pushed some gas through its nose. The last bandit walked up slowly to not surprise the animal, but what he saw was the panther's jaws opening and a sunbon shoot out into his chest. With the bandits all down, Naruto went over and slit each of their throats, killing them. The last camp was all squalls. Walking into the camp, the Naruto wanted the people to know that he was there for 2 reasons. The first, to see if he could use the puppet and attack at the same time. The second was because the bandits had a girl around his age tied up, looking like they were going to rape her. So having Squall shoot a few bullets first, Naruto went up to the girl to make sure she was safe. Squall was now slashing Lionheart, while throwing streams of fire and lightning at others in a dance of death. With all of the bandits dead but one, Naruto himself walked up to him and stared in his eyes. "I want you to know that you are going to be my first human in my collection," Naruto said in a bland tone. "You can't beat me, kid. I've trained with ninja from the hidden Heat Haze village. And with the legendary siphon, no one can beat me," the leader said, just before Squall came up and cut his head off. Sealing the bodies and weapons, Naruto went up to the girl and held out a hand to help her up. "My name's Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto said. Taking the arm, the girl got up and smiled. "The name is Karen." Chapter 5, Starting the Team. X Fire Country Forest X. "So you're from Water Country, huh? Then what are you doing here?" Naruto asked Karen after helping her to the campfire. Looking up from the fire, Karen stared into Naruto's eyes before rubbing her hands in front of the fire. "Yeah, and I'm the last of my clan. The Hidden Mist village killed my parents right before I crossed the border," she said with a tear in her eye. Walking over to Karen, Naruto put a hand on her shoulder before she jumped up and started crying on his. After Karen was done, Naruto started to talk again. "So if you're from a clan, did you have a bloodline or something cool like that?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, my clan was called the Supakutaru clan, and we could send an astral projection of ourselves off to anywhere we want to gather information or meet people," Karen said with a small smile. Looking at Karen with eyes bigger than his head, Naruto was amazed. "Wow, Karen, that seems so cool. You could do so much with that, like." Naruto stopped, getting a faraway look in his eyes before remember what Sasori said in his scrolls. Sasori had a bunch of spies everywhere. I know he even has some in the leaf. Maybe I should start having some spies, Naruto thought. "Naruto, are you okay? I can't have you dying on me. No, after all, I owe you my life," Karen said, seeing Naruto snap out of his daydream. Pulling Karen up, Naruto looked at her with a huge smile. "You know, Karen, I have a proposition for you. How would you like to become my head spy in the spy ring I'm about to build? With your bloodline, you would be perfect, and of course I would pay for everything," Naruto stated, letting her think about it. Thinking about it for a moment, Karen knew that this would be her best bet. She would get the money she needed to live and be able to help out Naruto. "Well, I do owe you my life, and I heard the Leaf Village always help their own, bloodline or not, so I'm in," she said to her new friend. Smiling, Naruto reached around to his lower back, where he had a new seal tattoo. This one held his orange and black sealing scroll with everything he had in it, and it was shaped like a scroll itself. Taking out a small green scroll with a yellow band around the middle, he handed it to Karen. "Here, take this and stay in the town close to here. I need you to stay low until I become a ninja, then we'll get you to become one too." "Okay, Naruto, I still need to master my bloodline anyway, so I'll give you a view when I do, okay?" she said before they both got up and parted ways. X Leaf Village Ninja Academy X. Walking into the Ninja Academy, Naruto let out a loud breath. Today was the day he had been waiting for, the day he would take his life to the next level. Opening the door to the class, Naruto saw all of his friends sitting up top, where he told them to with one seat open. From the right to the left, they were in this order: Lee, Tintin, Hinata, Sasuke, Sakura, and Shikamaru, with the empty between Hinata and Sasuke. "So you all ready for this?" Naruto asked, not only talking about the test, but him coming back as well. Seeing them all nod, Naruto just closed his eyes until he heard the teacher come in. Opening his eyes, Naruto was shocked for the first time in a long time, for the teacher that just walked in was the one that attacked him when he first came to the academy. Mizuki walked in, turning his head to look at the students that came early, but was surprised when he saw none other than the container of the nine-tailed fox, Uzumaki. Naruto. Tensing for an attack, Mizuki was about to jump up to him, when someone came crashing through the window. Looking in front of Mizuki, Naruto saw who crashed through the window. Smiling at his plan coming together, Naruto waved at the new person in the room. "Anko-chan, how are you doing today? I didn't know that you would be here to help with the test," he asked with a wink. Seeing Anko walk up and start to talk with the demon brat, Mizuki just waited for the rest of the class to get here while thinking. So the snake bitch and demon brat know each other. Well, this should make things easier. I'll just fail him and have him steal the scroll, he thought. Seeing the last of the call come and Anko left, so Naruto could finish this part of the plan. Walking behind all of the students, Mizuki saw someone else come in as well. "Okay, students, get to your seats and be quiet. My name is Irika, and I am going to be your head proctor for your test," the Irika said. But the thing is, if anyone paid close attention, they would be able to see that it wasn't Irika, but a puppet with an hinge on it, that Naruto controlled with the slightest twitches of his fingers. "Irika-sensei, who is the blonde in the back sitting by Sasuke-kun?" Yamanaka Ino asked. Smiling at the young blonde girl, Irika walked to the desk and put his legs up. "That Miss Yamanaka is Uzumaki Naruto. He has been training by himself and will take the test with you," Irika told her. For the first half of the test, Naruto aced the written and physical parts, even with Mizuki trying to hinder him. When it came to the jutsu portion, Naruto was called last after all of his friends came out with their new headbands on. Naruto went into the room to see Irika sitting in the middle with Anko and Mizuki on either side of him. Going through the motions of the 3 basic jutsu, Naruto was passed, even though Mizuki was pissed off at his plans being foiled. Seeing everyone was done, the teachers put the scores together before announcing the Rookie and Kunoichi of the year to the class. "Okay, class, time for the top of the class announcements. At the number 3 spot and top Kunoichi of the year, Hyuga Hinata," Anko said with a huge smile. Waiting for the clapping to stop, she started again. "The number 2 spot goes to 1 Uchiha Sasuke," she said. Waiting for some people to stop clapping and others to stop asking who is number 1, Irika started to announce the Rookie of the year. "And the Rookie of the year is Uzumaki Naruto by 1 point," Irika said. The whole class was silent until Sasuke got up, shook Naruto's hand, and then started clapping before the rest of his friends. Then the rest of his class started as well. Seeing class was over, Naruto left to go train and change into his new clothes, knowing full well he was being followed by his friends. Ex-Hokage Tower X. Standing in front of the Hokage's desk, Anko wondered for the 5th time in just 30 minutes what she was doing there, knowing that it wasn't because of the academy, because the Hokage knew all about what they did there. Walking into his office, the 3rd Hokage took a long drag from his pipe before sitting down behind his desk. "Anko, we have a big problem on our hands, and I have one last mission for you as a test before a very special promotion." At hearing she was going to get promoted, Anko wondered what this mission was going to be. "Hi Hokage-sama, what is the mission you have for me?" she asked with a bow. Just a few minutes ago, Mizuki broke into the Hokage vault and stole the forbidden scroll of seals, and I want you to catch him and bring him and the scroll back. But be warned, we have reason to believe that he has been working with Orochimaru and has some special jutsu from him," Sarutobi said with a smile on his face, seeing Anko get serious at Orochimaru's name. "Hi Hokage-sama, I'm on my way," Anko said before leaving to catch the traitor. Hidden Council Chambers X. Sitting in his hidden chambers, Danzo smirked with his second Sai just standing beside him. "Sai, I want you to take all of Root, but my inner circle, and take out Mitarashi Anko, then meet me to talk to Uzumaki." "Hi Danzo-sama, but what about Mizuki and the stolen scroll?" Sai asked his soon-to-be ex-boss. "Let the snake whore kill him, and take the scroll back here," Danzo said before ordering the boy to gather Root. "Soon, Danzo, I'll have my revenge for what you did to me and my brother, and the roots of your rotten plant will be pulled," Sai thought, while walking out to gather Root and tell the Hokage. Leaf Village Forest X. Standing in the forest, Naruto had just changed into his new clothes. While getting a few things, he lent to Irika for his part in the academy. Standing with his shoulder-length hair spiked like normal, he had a black sleeveless cloak like the 4th Hokage's without the flames on it, but red leaves on the bottom, and the kanji for red leaf in the middle, and a puppet scroll on his back. Under it, he had a sleeveless dark green shirt with a dark green vest that you would see Cloud Ninja wear, and his scimitars hanging on his hips with his belt and pouches for weapons. His pants were standard ninja pants, but again dark green with black boots on, while he also had a pair of sunglasses to see with his puppet seals, and a black leather choker to talk through his puppets. Getting ready to train Naruto, stopped once he sensed someone coming up on him. That wasn't his friends. Naruto stopped what he was about to do and stood waiting for his new visitor to come to him. Stepping out into a clearing, Mizuki stopped to catch his breath before raising his head to meet with Naruto's eyes and scowling. So it seems that it's my lucky day. I get the forbidden scroll and kill the demon brat, Mizuki said, gloating. Smiling at his teacher for a day, Naruto started to speak. So it seems that you want to kill me again, Mizuki. You really think if you couldn't have done it all those years ago, you could do it now? Naruto asked, getting a glare out of Mizuki. Oh, but I do. You see, not only do I have an ace up my sleeve, but I bet you want to know why I attacked you to start with, Mizuki asked. Glaring at Mizuki, Naruto slid his hands down to his scimitars to get ready to take them out when Mizuki started talking again. You see, Naruto, I know why the whole village hates you. You remember when you were born, the nine-tailed fox attacked the village. Well, the fourth Hokage didn't kill the beast. He sealed it into you, making you the new nine-tailed fox and making everyone hate you for killing their family, Mizuki stated before letting out a laugh. Up in the trees around the clearing, Naruto's friends all thought the same thing before jumping down to join their friend in the clearing. Walking forward first, Hinata and Hanabi, who had joined her sister, went up to Naruto and took his hands. Stupid Mizuki, not everyone hates Naruto-kun. In fact, we are here to prove that, Hinata said, glaring at her old teacher. Like any good ninja knows, Mizuki, the scroll isn't what is stored inside of it, Tenten said before standing by Hinata. Walking up to Hanabi, Lee didn't even smile before talking. Naruto is an inspiration to us all, Mizuki, to shine through your hatred. Smiling, Sakura and Sasuke joined their friends while everyone turned around to see Anko clapping and joining Hinata and Hanabi in embracing Naruto. Thanks guys, but let me handle him. It's time for some payback, Naruto said, walking forward. You think you can handle me? Well, like I said, I have an ace up my sleeve, Mizuki said, pulling out a small vial and drinking what's inside of it. From my master Orochimaru, he said before turning into a half-man, half-tiger monster. Well, Mizuki, not only are you the freak now, but I have also been training. How would you like to see my skills? Naruto said, pulling out Assassin and Apocalypse. Naruto ran at his opponent. Jumping over Mizuki, Naruto was about to slash at his head when the man-tiger slashed one of his claws at him and nicked Naruto in the shoulder. Ignoring the pain, Naruto took Apocalypse, slashed Mizuki in his side, yet he barely broke skin. Seeing that Mizuki was now a lot tougher, Naruto charged Apocalypse with his chakra again, this time cutting deep into Mizuki. Slashing again, Mizuki made Naruto jump back one more time. Taking off a folding Fuma shuriken from his waist, Mizuki clicked it open before preparing to throw it at the blonde. Seeing the power Mizuki had thrown the shuriken with, Naruto had little time to jump out of the way, avoiding the blade. Sensing that they were about to be joined by even more people, Naruto de-iced to end this. Running at Mizuki, Naruto jumped over him one more time before landing far behind him. Taking Assassin, Naruto dug the blade into the ground under him and channeled chakra into it. Seeing Mizuki not be able to move, Naruto went up to him and stabbed him in the neck with a senbon. Well, it seems that you now know that Assassin there has the power to stop anyone whose shadow it touches. And now the senbon in your neck will kill you with a nice little poison before I take you body and make it into a puppet for me, Naruto said before he saw Mizuki fall to the ground dead and sealed up the scroll he had. Walking over to his friends, Naruto smiled before thanking them and telling them they had more company soon. Hearing this, Hinata walked up to Naruto and started to use her knowledge about healing and healed his wounds to help. Thanks, Hinata-chan, and all of you guys, but if I were you, I'd leave. It seems an old friend wants to talk. Seeing them not move at all, Naruto just turned around to see Danzo drop into the clearing. So it seems that we can now kill two birds with one stone. Uzumaki, have you considered my offer to join Root? The older man asked. Taking a step in front of his friends, Naruto did one thing. He flipped Danzo off before saying, I'm not going to be made a weapon, Danzo. I have friends now that care for me, and I care for them. So leave or become my new toys, Naruto said with a smile. Well, now instead of just killing Anko Root, kill both of them and capture the rest, Danzo said before jumping back to watch. Seeing that they were all about to be attacked, Lee made the first move, running at the Root while taking off his weights that King gave him to wear. Jumping up, Lee started out in the hard fist style, smashing in several of the Root A and Bu's mask and shattering their bones. Switching into the Leaf style, Lee jumped into the middle of one group, shouting Leaf Whirlwind, scattering the root around. Shikamaru and Hanabi were the next to go, with both working together to take down the root. While Hanabi distracted the root, Shikamaru went behind them and did his shadow strangle jutsu. Shikamaru said before Hanabi went up to them and strike each one in the head with her gentle fist style, killing them. Hanabi then went and switched to the soaring eagle style that she had learned and mixed in with her gentle fist to start creating a new style. Anko started using her striking snake style taijutsu to kill several of the root ninja before unleashing her snakes to poison them. Striking Shadow Snake. Anko yelled, having snakes jump out of her sleeves to poison her opponents. Next, Anko took out her own version of the grass cutter sword and started a kenjutsu fight with Root A and BU. Tintin and Sakura both teamed up to fight the root, having Sakura use her jinjutsu while Tintin would cut them down with her weapons. Tree Binding Death was heard by several of the root members before they found themselves stuck to a tree and saw Tintin coming at them with a katana before dying from her attacks. Putting the katana away, Tintin pulled out a two double-sided axes and waited for Sakura to start her next jutsu, the Temple of Nirvana Jutsu. Sasuke took out a kunai and ran into the middle of the fighting himself, taking out and cutting a few root on his way. In the middle of the battle, Sasuke got punched in the ribs, cracking one and knocking him down. Seeing one of the root step towards him with his katana out to strike, the world started to slow down, letting Sasuke see clearer. Rolling to the side, Sasuke smirked, knowing that the gasp from the root was because he just activated his Sharingan. Jumping back, Sasuke started going through hand signs before yelling, Fire Style, Fire Dragon Jutsu, and breathing out his dragon that took out 10 of the root itself. Jumping behind one of the root ninja, Hinata activated her chakra scalpel and cut her throat. Running through the group of ninja, Hinata started slashing legs and throats, killing as she went. After killing one more group, Hinata jumped back and started working her gentle fist and helping her sister kill some more. Naruto, seeing the severity of the situation, pulled his scroll off and started out with Crow, Black Ant, and Salamander, using them to kill or poison many of his enemies while using Salamander to block attacks on him. Doing good so far, Naruto watched his friends. They were doing good, but each of them were taking hits and getting tired. Seeing Hinata, Hanabi, and Anko all backed up to one another and surrounded, Naruto got pissed. He resealed his puppets and joined his friends in the middle. Danzo, you shouldn't have hurt my friends, but now you get to see my true creations. I already know that you're surprised that I use puppets, but now meet my own hand-made ones. Naruto said, staring at the man before unsealing his creations. Guys, this is the first time I used all of them together. Do your best to watch my back, and I'll take care of the rest. Naruto told them. Unsealing his team, Naruto got ready to fight and sent out each puppet to fight. Keeping Sojeki High by him, he had him shoot off arrows to distract the root members, even using the puppet's new jutsu, Invisible Earth Shot, where she would use all of her seals to create arrows out of earth, while using her camouflage seals to turn it invisible and the wind seals to shoot it at her target. While Sojeki High protected him, Kunoichi and Katetsu went out to take out another group. Having Kunoichi walk up to the group, the root ninja were all but blown back by nosebleeds. Seeing them all distracted, Naruto had Katetsu walk up behind them and grab them in a giant bear hug, after which Kunoichi jumped up and landed on them with her nails and teeth going into them. Love's Embrace. Naruto intoned his jutsu. Dropping the root, Katetsu turned around and chopped several root in half with Excalibur. Up next was Pride and Squall. Squall started off with using his water and wind seals to create the Ice Flow Jutsu to freeze his enemies in blocks of ice, while letting Pride come through and attack them with his Senbon. While having Pride attack the frozen enemies, Naruto had Squall rush through, killing them with either a shot from his gun or swing of his blade. Shadow was doing the most damage, throwing down smoke bombs and using his own scimitars to cut through the root ninja. When the smoke rose, only 10 root were left standing in his group. 5 of them Shadow shot down with his finger Senbon. The next 5 Shadow took out his Naginata, the legendary siphon, to take care of them. Spinning it in front of him, all the root A and BU saw was a spiral of darkness. Dark Void Jutsu. Launching his blade at them, all they saw before their limbs left their bodies was the darkness of the void. Watching Naruto take care of most of the root by himself with his puppets, the rest of the group were killing anyone that got close. After decimating the root A and BU, the last standing was Danzo himself. All of Naruto's friends were on their last legs, His puppets were in need of repair, but still working, and he needed to catch his own breath. Seeing the blonde run up to him with his scimitars out, Danzo stepped to the side and ripped his arm out of the bandages while pushing Naruto against a tree. Danzo's new arm was covered in purple scales, an experiment from Orochimaru it would seem, while his eye was mechanical. Sai, come here and kill his friends, Danzo yelled. Jumping beside Danzo, Sai spoke. You never saw it coming, did you? Sai asked before stabbing him in the neck with a dagger. Seeing Sai betray and kill Danzo, everyone relaxed while the Hokage arrived and told to brief them all. Sending them all home, he let Naruto stay to seal up the bodies, knowing that he would want to use them as human puppets. Leaf Village Ninja Academy X. Sitting in the back of the academy, the whole group of friends looked sick from what they did the night before, having their first kills then, when the real Iruka walked in to announce teams. Hello and congratulations to everyone that has passed now on to team placements. Team 7 will be Hyuga Niji, Yamanaka Ino, and Aburame Shino with Hitaki Kakashi as your sensei. Team 8 will be Inazuka Kiba, Akimichi Choji, and Fuma Sasami with Mato Guy as your sensei. Seeing them all smile, Iruka now had a very big surprise for them all. Now Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, Hyuga Hinata, Tetsu Tenten, Haruno Sakura, Nara Shikamaru, and Liu will meet your sensei at the Hokage's tower. Good luck, Iruka said with a smile before they all left. Hokage Tower X. Walking into the Hokage's office, everyone was surprised to see Anko standing there with the Hokage. Well, old man, who's on my team? Naruto yelled out. Chuckling at Naruto's antics, Sarutobi smiled. Well, Naruto, you and the rest of your friends are now a part of a very special team called the Hokage's Will, he said, letting everyone stay in the surprise. Chapter 6, The Citadel. Hokage Tower X. Waiting for the new genin to close their mouths, Sarutobi lit up his pipe with a flick of a match. When they finally were closed, the Hokage started to speak. Now, like I stated, you all are now a part of a very special team called the Hokage's Will. Now, first off, a small history on the Hokage's Will. The first team was under the first Hokage, and they eventually became the first ANBU, while his brother became the second Hokage. Seeing that everyone was following along with him, the third continued. Now, after that, we have the second Hokage's team, which consisted of my own team along with Danzo's team. You may ask yourselves, why didn't I have a team or the fourth Hokage? Well, I took the Sennin on as my team, while the fourth left us before he could start his own will. Hokage-sama, 2 questions. First, why us? And then, what is the job of the Hokage's Will? Sakura asked the aged man. Smiling at the young pink-haired girl, the Hokage answered her question. Well, Sakura-san, to answer your first question, I picked you all for your talents, teamwork, and will of fire. You all have the potential to master each of your chosen fields. Taking a puff of his pipe, Sarutobi continued. Now on to the purpose of this team. In the short-term goals, you are going to be training to become the best of the best in your fields, while taking some of the harder and longer missions that would require more than one team. In the long term, you will all become my own elite ANBU squad to deal with things I don't want people to know of, while other goals will come and go as time goes by. I take it you want me to lead this little group of yours, Hokage-san? Anko questioned the aging leader. That's right, Anko-san, I want you to lead and train them. If you have no more to train them in, then bring in a master in their chosen art, the Hokage said to the snake user. Taking a step forward, Naruto spoke up for the first time. Hey, old man, if you want us to be a team and train together, wouldn't it be easier for us all to live together? Naruto asked. He has a good point, Hokage-sama. It would be troublesome to have to meet up with everyone, and we would get more training in that way too, the young shadow user said, while keeping his eyes closed. Taking out a scroll from behind the picture of the first Hokage, the third started to talk. Well, Naruto-kun, I was getting to that. You see, in years past, the Hokages will used a very special base that is hidden from the rest of the village behind the Hokage mountain, called the Citadel, Sarutobi said while unrolling the scroll and unsealing the key and 8 necklaces that were inside. Taking the necklaces from the desk, Naruto tossed them onto his friends' necks with expert puppet user skills before he spoke up. Well, guys, I'm going home to pack and start working on my root puppets. I'll see you all tomorrow at the mountain, he said before jumping out of the open window, letting the rest of the group leave through the door, but Anko who followed through the window. Naruto's House X. Arriving at his house, Naruto made about 10 shadow clones to pack up his house, and 10 more to repair his damaged puppets while he went to start on his new ones. Walking into his puppet workshop, Naruto started to unseal the last of the bandits he had to work on to perfect his human puppet technique. After 2 hours and 10 failed attempts, he finally was able to create a perfect human puppet, only wasting the other 99 bandits. Having mastered the art of human puppets enough, Naruto unsealed all of the Root A and BU members he found that would be usable after the fight, numbering 50 in all. Setting out to start on the first one, he started taking out organs and putting them in jars while doing the same with the blood and skin. Having converted the Root A and BU into a basic puppet, Naruto started to customize him some more. Adding into their normal armor, Naruto put kunai launchers covered in knockout poison, while putting the same poison on their ninjato. Adding in his normal seals along with a new one just for this group of puppets along with his mark, Naruto finished his first Root A and BU puppet. Deciding that he had a good enough model for his clones to go by, Naruto made one clone for each of the Root A and BU left to finish the job while he started to work on his next puppet, Mizuki himself. Finishing the basics of the puppet process, Naruto started the customizing of his new puppet, which he elected to keep in the half-man, half-tiger form, putting him in a black vest with white fur trim and black pants. Naruto also dipped his claws in a high-power poison, while making it where he would be able to shoot them off from little attached chains. His tail, Naruto added a spear tip to while also sectioning it off to make it be able to shoot out at his enemies. The last add-on Naruto added was a pair of folding Fuma shuriken in a X-shaped pattern on his back. Taking a break and trusting his clones to finish the Root A and BU, Naruto went around his house checking to make sure everything that he needed was all sealed up and packed away in his master scroll. Going around, he saw that the weapons, plants, poisons, antidotes, clothes, and food had already been sealed up. Seeing that the clones were now starting on packing up his other scrolls and books, Naruto went to his spare puppet room to check on the repairs to his team. The basic 3 were already done and sealed up, while Shadow and Kunoichi were done as well, while the rest were still being worked on. Seeing that everything was going as planned, Naruto went to his room. Picking up a pad of paper he used to map out new puppets, Naruto started to write down some ideas, waiting for his clones to be done so he could dispel them. Finishing up for the night, Naruto went to bed ready for the first day with his team and working on his Danzo puppet. The Citadel X. The next morning, the whole of Team Hokage's will stood waiting at their meeting spot on the top of the Hokage mountain, waiting for their team captain Anko and the Hokage to come and show them their new home and base. Seeing their leader and team captain coming up the trail, the Genin all got in a line and waited to be led to their base. "I'm glad you all could be ready at such a short notice, so if you would follow me, we can get to your new home," the Hokage said while leading into a tunnel under the first Hokage. Reaching their destination, Anko gestured with her arm at their new base and home. "Let me be the first to welcome you all to your new home, the legendary Citadel." Sitting before them was the most beautiful thing some of them have ever seen. The Citadel itself was a 4-story building with 2 other stories underground. Around the Citadel were several training grounds of all different kinds and 3 different huge gardens. On the far side of the ground was a huge lake with a waterfall going into it, and on the left of the lake was a medium-sized forest with all types of beasts and plants. "As of right now, this is your new home. I know the building doesn't look like much now, but it's meant to have you customize it and make it your own. Now, before I leave and let you all set up, I need to tell you 2 things. First off, you will start having missions next week, so be ready. Next is Team Hokage's will. It is expected for you to take on apprentices when you hit the Chunin level. We'll have fun," the Hokage said before shining off. Walking in front of her new team, Anko called them to attention before giving orders. "Okay team, first things first, we need to set up some security and get everyone keyed into the security seals," she stated before walking over to the front door and cutting her finger before running it across the seal. While everyone else was doing what Anko did to key themselves into the seals, Naruto took out his master scroll and unsealed a small black scroll. "Naruto-kun, what are you doing with that scroll?" Hinata asked her crush, with a crimson blush on her face. Creating a small team of shadow clones, Naruto sent them off with the scroll before answering. "Well, Hinata-chan, in that scroll were the leftover Root A and BU that I made into puppets. Now on those puppets are what I call sentinel seals, used to make them guard an area without someone wasting chakra. The clones are going to set them in a master seal for them to draw chakra from around the base." Seeing everyone was done, Anko called to the group once more. "Okay, Naruto, that is very good of you. Now let's go inside and set up your rooms." Walking inside of the Citadel, Anko told them to all go to the second floor and pick out rooms and drop off their basic belongings. Meeting back in the front room after claiming their own rooms, the group gathered around Anko, who was about to talk. Okay, now is there anyone who needs any special rooms or anything like that? She asked her team. Naruto needed his puppet-making room, a greenhouse, and a ceiling room. Sasuke and Sakura didn't need anything. Hinata wanted a medic room for her medicine and practice. Tintin needed a forge to make some of her weapons. Lee wanted a weight room to work out on, and Shikamaru wanted a game room with a view to watch the clouds. You hear that, Naruto-kun? I want you to make some shadow clones and get started on those rooms. If you have anything you want in those rooms, hand them to Naruto-kun's shadow clones now, Anko said with a smile. Seeing him create his clones and send them off, Anko gave everyone the rest of the afternoon off and went to her room to unpack. Citadel Garden X. Having the afternoon off, Naruto went down to one of the gardens to contemplate the events that have happened. Finding the perfect tree to meditate by, Naruto hopped in without even moving a speck of dust and started meditating on a mid-level branch. An hour later, Hinata was walking in the same garden looking for a spot to make a Zen garden. Walking in front of the tree Naruto was in, Hinata took a look up to find Naruto sitting in the tree. Looking up, Hinata saw the peaceful expression on his face. Hello, Hinata-chan. Is there something that I can help you with? Naruto asked while opening one eye and looking at Hinata. Being so surprised by Naruto's actions, Hinata visibly paled. No, Naruto-kun, I'm just looking for a spot for a nice little Zen garden. What brings you out here today? She asked shyly while bowing her head. Oh, just getting lost on the road of life and thinking about what has been happening. So, Hinata-chan, would you like a hand with your Zen garden? Naruto asked with a foxy grin. Looking up to her crush, Hinata smiled and nodded her head. I would love for your help, Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a twinkle in her eye. About an hour later, Naruto and Hinata were done for the day on their Zen garden and were each sitting on a branch. With sweat rolling off their bodies, they each took a breath of relief for being done. Well, Naruto-kun, that was very peaceful, but I wish to know what you think about what's going on, Hinata asked, taking a towel and wiping her face before throwing it to Naruto. Catching the towel that Hinata threw at him, Naruto answered, well, it's going to be different. We'll have harder missions and be expected to do better than others. But I also think that we will grow and become better people, more like a family than a team, Naruto said before wiping his face as well. Dropping out of the tree, they both started walking back to the Citadel. Right before they exited the garden, Naruto took Hinata's hand and led her behind the fence near a tree. Hinata-chan, I need to ask you a question, Naruto said nervously. Anything, Naruto-kun, I'll do my best to help you, she said with a deep red blush from Naruto grabbing her hand. Well, you see, Hinata-chan, the real reason I came out here was to think about this one girl. You see, recently she has changed from a very shy girl to an outgoing and great kunoichi, Naruto said with a shy smile. Now you see, this kunoichi has been watching me for quite some time, and I've been watching her as well. Seeing Hinata blush deepen even more, Naruto got to the point. Hinata-chan, what I'm trying to say is, will you give me the chance and be my girlfriend? Naruto said while kicking dust around. Hearing this sent Hinata for a shock, and like her past self, she fainted, falling into Naruto's arms. About 10 minutes later, Hinata awoke to find herself in Naruto's arms. Deciding to not trust her voice, Hinata did the only other thing she could do. She kissed Naruto square on the lips. Kissing her back with equal force, they both broke, panting a few moments later. Smiling at each other, they took each other's hands and walked back to the Citadel for some quite alone time until they left for training. Citadel Training Ground X. Later that evening, Anko gathered her team at one of the bigger training grounds to do an assessment of their skills. She made a shadow clone for each of them, while having herself go with Naruto for his assessment. Lee was taken and tested in his taijutsu, switching between his hard fist and leaf style against Anko's striking snake style. Even though Lee had Anko on power and compared to her in speed, Lee's style was too rigid to beat Anko's more flowing style, allowing Anko to dodge or block all of his hits. Yet in the end, it was Anko who was panting from exhaustion and not Lee. With sweat dripping down her forehead, Anko smiled before telling him to go train while he waits for the others to finish up, and dismissed herself for the real Anko. Shikamaru was next and was to be tested in his strategical skills. Anko had given him the task of capturing her in 4 moves or less while she attacked. Giving him less than a second to think about his plan, Anko was on the move, dodging and analyzing her style for a minute. Shikamaru came up with his plan and started to put it into place. The first step of his plan was when he threw a flash bomb and tried to blind Anko. Using the distraction, he started throwing kunai to push Anko back to the trees. The next thing Anko knew was that she was unable to move anymore, being captured by Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu. Wow, kid, only 3 moves impressive. Now let me go, Anko said with a growl. Actually, it was 4 moves. I created a clone when I threw the flash bomb. All the kunai were fake, Shikamaru said before letting her go to dismiss herself. Up next was Tintin, who had to face Anko using her weapons against Anko's own grass cutter sword. Tintin herself took out a white and black scroll from her cleavage and unsealed a curved katana. The katana blade itself was razor-thin and extremely sharp. The blade was pure silver and shined in the sun, while the handle itself had a black and white swirl around it with a yin-yang guard. Nice sword you got there, Buns. Where did you get it? Anko asked while circling Tintin. Growling, Tintin answered. This sensei is my own hand-made sword, Hitoshi, Tintin said before leaping at her new sensei, with a sadistic smile on her face. Tintin was now attacking Anko with a passion. Each time their swords hit each other, sparks flew. Yet after 10 minutes of even sword play, Tintin became serious, and with a flick of her wrist knocked Anko's sword out of her hand, ending the spar before stabbing the clone in the chest. That's for calling me Buns, Tintin growled, while resealing Hitoshi. Sakura was tested in Genjutsu next. Okay, Pinky, bring on your worst, and try to trap me, Anko stated after explaining that she would be on high Genin level. To say that Sakura was nervous was an understatement. She always thought that she was weaker than her friends, but now she was being put to the test. With sweat dripping down her forehead, Sakura started to mold her chakra while flashing through hand signs. On the last one, all that was heard was a small whisper of Circle of the Damned. Under Anko, a blood-red circle started to form with kanji spreading from the middle. At first, all Anko saw was the circle, but then coming up from the ground, skeletons started to rip through the earth. At the same time, all of these skeletons started walking towards her, until they were all on top of her. Yet even though she would swipe her kunai at them, they all still came at her, until they started to pull her down to hell. Stopping the Genjutsu and dispelling the clone, Sakura muttered one thing. Rather pink than purple, crazy bitch. Okay, duck, but hit me with your best shot, Anko said with a smirk, waiting for Sasuke to start with his ninjutsu test. With the classic Uchiha snare on his face, Sasuke started to flash through hand signs before stopping. Earth style, tremor, jutsu, Sasuke yelled as the ground below the snake user started to shake. Jumping away a split second before she would have been swallowed by the ground, Anko did her own jutsu fire style, Phoenix Fire Jutsu. She yelled, shooting small fireballs around the last Uchiha. Ducking and rolling to the side, Sasuke dodged all but one of the fireballs, which hit him in the back of his head, catching his hair on fire. Smacking his own head to put the fire out, Sasuke started one more jutsu. Water style, Torrent Jutsu, Sasuke shouted, pointing his hands at Anko. Seconds later, one would see Sasuke pumping his arms in and out with water shooting out of his hands on each out. Who would have thought of an Uchiha using a water jutsu? Anko said before puffing away. Over in Hinata's test area, Anko had a dying fox for Hinata to heal. After using her diagnostic jutsu, Hinata found out that not only was it poisoned, but had a broken ankle. Going over to where the fox was poisoned, Hinata started to pull out the poison to save its life. Finishing with that, Hinata wiped the sweat off of her brow with her sleeve. Next, going over to the fox's back ankle, Hinata started to heal it next. Finishing up with the fox's ankle, Hinata wrapped it in a bandage and put it in her lap while it fell asleep. Saving the best for herself, Anko and Naruto went over to their own clearing to do his test. So, cutie, we've seen you handle a group of weak root A and BU. But now let's see you take on a real ninja, she said while walking up to him with a sway in her hips. Watching Anko's hips, Naruto barely noticed the flick of Anko's wrist that sent a kunai his way. Taking out one of his shuriken, Naruto sent it to intercept the kunai with a flick of his own wrist. Jumping back from Anko's attacks, Naruto pulled out Assassin and Apocalypse to parry a blow from Anko and her sword. After several moments of sword play, Naruto caught Anko's sword between his own scimitars. Pushing down on his scimitars, Anko was able to knock them out of his hands and him to the ground. Having tested his own skills, Anko thought it was time to test what he could do with his puppets. Jumping back, the crazy Kunoichi started a jutsu before stopping and yelling, Summoning Jutsu. Scrambling up and putting away his scimitars, Naruto was greeted by the sight of a 30-foot dark blue snake. Seeing the snake slither towards him from one direction and Anko coming from the other, Naruto bit his thumb before unsealing his puppet team, sending his heavy hitters Kitetsu, Shadow, and Pride to deal with the snake. Naruto kept Squall, Kunoichi, and Sojekihai to face Anko. Figuring that once he took care of the snake, Anko would stop her test, Naruto focused on it, while he had Squall hold Anko and Sojekihai distract her. Having Shadow throw down some smoke bombs to confuse the snake, Naruto sent Pride jumping on top of it. Having Pride on top of the snake's head, Pride jammed both of its claws into the serpent's eyes, blinding the beast. Having Pride finish his job, Naruto, mad, it jumped down off of the snake's head, but before it could even move, Kitetsu was on the offensive. Flicking his finger up, Naruto had Kitetsu jump up and impale the poor serpent in the head with Excalibur before it went up in smoke. Seeing the snake done, Anko backed up before stopping the test. "Okay team, that's enough for now. Meet me in the meeting room in 30 minutes. Anko said before walking away. X Citadel Meeting Room X. Sitting in a circle, Team Hokages will waited for their sensei to start the meeting. "Okay team, today was a good start. I think I now have a feel for what you all are capable of," Anko said. Looking at Lee, Anko continued. "Lee, you are going to be one of the most skilled taijutsu expert in this village. To start out your training, I am going to teach you my striking snake style. After that, you will go to Miyato Guy to finish the hard fist style." "Hi, Anko-sensei," Lee yelled, flashing a smile. Turning to Shikamaru next, Anko started to talk. "Pineapple Head, you are our strategist. You are going to be learning everything I learned from my sensei on code breaking and strategy." Turning her head to Tintin, she started again. "Buns, you're our weapons expert. I'm going to teach you the finer points of swordplay before trading that for a different weapon." Hearing Tintin growl, Anko went to her next student. "And you, Pinky, are one hell of a Jinjutsu user. Unfortunately, I'm not, so I'm getting an old friend to help train you." Now Tintin and Sakura were both glaring holes into their sensei. "Sasuke, you are our ninjutsu expert. Before we go on our first mission, I plan to have you know at least 2 jutsu from each of the main elements. While you, Hinata, will be our medic and focus on healing jutsu, I'll try to get someone from the hospital to teach you." Turning to the last of her team, Anko couldn't help but smile. "Naruto, you are one hell of a puppet user, and while we don't have those in the Leaf, so you get to train yourself in that aspect, but we will still help you in your other parts of training." "Anko-sensei, when are we going to be able to start doing missions?" Tintin asked her sycophantic sensei. "Well, let's see what I have on my schedule for you all," Anko said, pulling out a scroll and with a flick of her wrist unrolling it. "Well, tomorrow we are going to get you all some new clothes and equipment, and after that we have a week of training before we start with some minor missions," Anko said with a grin. "Great clothes shopping with a bunch of girls? Troublesome," Shikamaru said, before being punched in the head by Sakura. Looking at the shadow user, all of the other males backed away from Sakura before Anko grinned. "All right, maggots, it's time to turn in for the night. We have a long week ahead of us," Anko said before doing a mud shunshin. X Citadel Workshop X. Before turning in for the night, Naruto went into his new puppet workshop to work on Danzo and finished turning him into his new puppet. After only 2 hours, Naruto not only had a new puppets, but 2 new puppet seals. One of the seals being the face of a tiger for Mizuki, and the other being the symbol for Root, where he would put Danzo. His new Danzo puppet was also complete. Besides having all of the normal seals, this one was dressed in loose blue pants and a white long-sleeve shirt. For weapons, he had a cane that could turn into a katana, blades that could come out of his heels, and smoke bombs that came out of the palm of his normal hand. Naruto also put a flip-out blade onto his normal arm. His scale arm was fitted so the scales could shoot off and be attached with ninja wire to tie up his enemies, while his mechanical eye would be used to shoot trackers onto enemies. And as always, all of the weapons were poisoned. X Hidden Leaf Village X. The next morning, everyone was woke up bright and early by Anko shooting a low-level water jutsu at them. "Wake up, maggots, it's time to get going, and get you looking like proper shinobi," she yelled before the shadow clones she had of herself dispelled, and the real her jumped out of the Naruto's window. After getting dressed, everyone was now leaving the citadel grumbling about being woke up so early. That is everyone but Naruto. Naruto was smirking, which kind of freaked everyone out. Everyone soon found out, though, when out of nowhere from the top of the monument a bucket of water fell and landed right on Anko's head. "That's what you get for using a water jutsu to wake everyone up," Naruto yelled before running off, with Anko following him. They didn't get far off of the monument, though, when Naruto ran into something or someone small and loud. Seeing that it was a kid he hit, Naruto picked him up to help him. "Hey, get off of me. Do you know who I am?" the child yelled. Dropping the noisy kid on his ass, Naruto was just about to punch him in the head when Anko caught his hand. "Hey Naruto, I don't think you want to knock out the Hokage's grandson."